Wingman Joker, thank you for listening to this channel and please support the channel. Please subscribe. Chapter 141, Scamming a Girl. Lily and Margaret thought that following Victor would be easy. But it wasn't. He left the mansion using one of the new cars. A minivan that was bought by Arya for emergencies. It was the least conspicuous one in the garage. After some deliberation, and after ordering Camellia to hide their absence, they took an SUV and used to follow him from afar. Lily took the driver's seat as Margaret was not a good driver, she got her license only 2 months ago. They caught up with him pretty quickly as he seemed to be taking his time and had to stop at a traffic light down the mountain. They kept their distance, moving as far away from him as possible to avoid detection. Why does he keep changing lanes? Does he really know how to drive? Margaret, who was watching, asked with a frown. She noticed his bizarre behavior as soon as they reached the highway. It is a maneuvering tactic. It is used to lose any potential pursuers. Lily replied as she focused on driving. Lily had to confess that Victor was simply amazing. Despite her training as an assassin, she had a very hard time following his car. His car movement pattern made following him very tiresome, and she was on the verge of giving up. But strangely, after a while, his car slowed down and began to move more regularly, and that allowed her to follow him more easily. They quickly reached a dark corner of the city, where there were no pedestrians. This place seemed to be set for demolition as the buildings were very old, and there were only a few lit apartments. Victor parked the car near a dark alleyway, then went in. Margaret and Lily used this chance to park their car too. And just when they were about to step down and follow Victor, a nasty-looking man walked arrogantly out of the alleyway. He was a young gangster with red hair and a face full of scars. Watching the man leave, Margaret intended to go into the alley, but her arm was caught by a frowning Lily whose eyes were on that man. "It's the young master in disguise," she whispered, then stepped out of the car and followed that guy. Margaret opened her eyes wide in astonishment, then, after giving the alley one last look, she nimbly followed after Lily. This young master was more skillful than she expected. They followed him for a while until he reached another alley where he entered after spotting something. Margaret was getting curious when they heard a shout from inside. "It's her, the girl who ran away from the auction." Following it was a whistling sound. A girl dashed out of the alley and headed in Lily and Margaret's direction. So Lily quickly grabbed Margaret and jumped up a tree as she activated her shadow cloak skill. The girl passed them and headed toward another street as a man ran after her. He was not the previous one, but a fat one with a stained shirt one this time. "Is this the young master too?" Margaret asked with a frown after that man got far enough. "Yes," Lily said. Although he was in disguise, he always had a certain air around him that allowed her to discover him. "Why is he pursuing that girl? Maybe we should grab her for him," Margaret suggested. "I don't know, but it would be better to stay out of this." "Didn't you notice the way he ran after her? It was like he was taking his time chasing a mouse. He is not serious." Lily responded. "You're right, maybe he likes to play with his food. Let's go after them," Margaret said as Lily nodded. After that, they watched an amazing drama as the girl kept running away from different gangsters who kept popping out of nowhere. They ranged from short mean men to huge muscular bikers. The girl tried to fly a few times, surprising both Lily and Margaret. But she quickly returned to the ground after hearing gunshots and men screaming, "Shoot her, she's up there." The air was not a viable escape route. "She is a player," Margaret, who was watching with Lily from behind a corner, said in surprise. "Yes," Lily responded as she watched the girl enter another alleyway. She didn't seem to notice the sign that indicated a dead end. After that, the street became silent as the girl hid in a dark corner, not daring to peek as a gangster kept moving at the alley entrance while yelling using different voices. "Did you find her?" "No. The boss would punish us." "Keep searching. I will punish her well when I find her. I will do it with her 10 times in a row." "I will not do that. I am not into girls. You shut up and do your job. And stay away from me. Search well. ... Margaret wanted to chuckle but used her hands to hold her mouth after Lily shot her a glare. The young master was acting very strange. Did he lose his mind after the coma? Suddenly the gangster who was shouting started changing his shape, and under their surprised eyes, he turned into a pitch-black demon with 2 long horns and a pointy tail. "Are you sure he is the young master?" the scared Margaret asked. "Positive," Lily replied as she kept her eyes on him. He entered the alley. There was a scream. There was silence. Margaret and Lily looked at each other, then quickly climbed onto the roof of a nearby building to have a look at what was happening. The girl, who was cornered, seemed to be arguing with the demon, who waved his skeletal hand in midair making some kind of contract appear. Margaret wanted to hear, but couldn't. It was as if some kind of barrier was stopping any sounds. Lily knew it was Victor's skill. The girl kept arguing and seemed hesitant, but after some talking with the demon, she seemed to have agreed and marked the contract with her blood. After some more talking, the demon gave the girl a ring and some money, then disintegrated into a smoke. The girl hesitated and then left the ally while looking around like a scared mouse, but after some time she seemed to have some confidence. She used a paper that appeared magically in her hand, and her shape suddenly changed into that of an ugly girl with a pimple on her nose. With that, she walked a little, then found a taxi and went away. "Should we follow her?" Margaret asked. "Follow who?" Victor asked. "The girl." "Ah, young master." Lily, who was absent-minded, turned around to see her young master standing there, making Margaret also turn to look in astonishment. "When did you notice us?" Lily asked as she looked down at her feet. "What, he noticed us before?" Margaret asked as she looked at him. "On the highway, my driving technique was not only to lose pursuers. It can also be used to uncover them. But good job following me to that point," he said with a smirk. "Ah, then that's why you slowed down," Lily said as she looked back at him. "Yes, I wanted to test your sneaking capabilities. And if you would disturb my plan or not." "You passed," he said with a nod, making Lily sigh in relief. "How did you know that the gangster was me?" he asked them suddenly. "I just felt it." Lily blushed as she said it, making Victor look at her with wonder. "Who was that girl?" Margaret asked as she approached Victor and began to move her hands indecently around. "A little girl who needed to be scammed," he said as he grabbed her dishonest hands. "What did you promise her?" "The same as me, a boyfriend and an allowance," she asked, trying to break free to no avail. "When did he become this strong?" "No, I promised her that she would be able to be one of the strongest people in the world. She had to sell her soul for that though," Victor said, not letting them know if he was joking or telling the truth. "Don't worry, she will not be eaten by me, probably," he said, noticing the jealous look in Lily's eyes. "Probably?" Margaret asked, raising one eyebrow as she stuck her body to him. "Yes, destiny is a strange thing. If she suddenly chose to offer herself to this young master, I would not refuse," he replied arrogantly, earning himself a nasty glare. "Shall we return home now?" Lily asked, with a sigh. At least they would not get a new sister tonight. She needs some time to remember the names of the ones she has already got. "Not yet, I need to punish some naughty girls first," he said, letting go of Margaret's hands. "Who?" Margaret asked as Lily took a step back. "If you want to know, put your hands on the ledge and bend to peek down into the alleyway," Victor said with a smirk as he spied it on his palm. That night, in a certain alley in the middle of the city, there were two new rumors. The first was about a demon that made pretty girls ugly, and the second was about ghosts wailing all night begging for mercy. Chapter 142, Changed My Mind. Except for Victor's joyful whistling, the car was silent, as Margaret and Lily, who were in the back, were having difficulty sitting down after the punishment. They were not in a mood to talk. "Take these," Victor said, throwing them 2 healing pills. He may have gone a little bit overboard, but he was enjoying himself and failed to remember that he was now a lot stronger after he leveled up. Lily and Margaret quickly took the pills and began to feel better. "Don't do it again. One mistake and you might have compromised my entire mission," he warned. "Understood," they said, pouting. "Margaret, Lily told me that you convinced those mountain owners to sell it. How did you do it?" "As far as I know, those villagers tend to be very stubborn," he asked, intending to lighten the atmosphere. "Well," Margaret hesitated a little. She was embarrassed. "You see, the mountain belongs to some villagers. They seem to have gotten it as compensation from the country because some of their lands got flooded after the building of a dam about 50 years ago. I met with the mayor, and asked him nicely first. But they refused no matter how much money we offered him. He seemed to be under the impression that we want to build some kind of a big resort and he wants to keep the mountain and benefit from it later when the land price rises. Another company tried to scam him before, so he was very sensitive," she said. "So what did you do?" he asked. "I tried to seduce them. But he called me a slut and then threw stones at me with the rest of the villagers. Those guys are very conservative," she said, puffing her cheeks. "And?" he asked in surprise. "Resisting Margaret's charm skills is very hard. I invited the mayor and the village elders for a drink under the premise of an apology. I intended to drug them," she said, "and maybe film a short clip to use it to blackmail them. She added. Oh, that would work. Did you say intending? What happened? He asked. Well, they refused to drink from the bottles I prepared, bringing their own home-brewed ones. So, I used the drug you gave Alpha when we raided the brothel. I put it in the air conditioner. She said, making Victor frown. That thing is very potent. He said, although the soul poison he gave Alpha was very diluted, it was still very dangerous. I know that Alpha told me at the brothel, so I diluted 1 drop of it before using. She protested. She was not stupid. Oh, did it work? He asked. Not as intended. I think it had something to do with their local wine. They didn't sleep. She said, I was confused at first as they suddenly started acting strangely, but later I noticed that they became very gullible and did whatever I told them to, so I tried to convince them to sign the selling contract and they did it with a smiling face. They put their names and their signatures on the contract one by one. She said, making Victor press the brakes and look back at Margaret. Really, didn't they go after you with pitchforks the next day? He asked as he thought. They completely forgot about that night, so when Arya sent the lawyers to complete the paperwork they protested, so he sent the chicks to scare them. It seemed like it was all the mayor and his gang's plan. But after he signed the contract, the villagers no longer trusted him or the elders, and after seeing the money they were not reluctant anymore. She said, are you sure it was their wine? He asked. He never expected that a soul poison could have such an effect. Theoretically, it was possible, as its effect was on weakening the soul. But it has never been done before. Yes, it was the only factor, and when we used the poison in the brothel no such effect happened despite all the guests being a little drunk. Even Arya was very surprised. She said as she nodded. I thought that you would be interested. Do you want to use this on someone? I tried to get some more wine from the villagers but they kicked me out. They even refused to tell me what it was made of, saying things about some kind of sacred oath. So I sneaked into the village's warehouse and took one of the bottles. I put it in the mansion cellar. I wanted to try it on someone, but Lily stopped me, saying that it was very dangerous. She added, I see. This thing might be very useful. Victor said, frowning in thought. He needed to test it on players. If this thing really works, killing a scion would not be impossible. And maybe that village had some kind of secret. He needs to check it. He sighed, intending to start the car again, but was stopped by a police siren as a police car parked behind him, and a police officer that was too proud for her own good stepped out. Lee, Office Lee, we meet again, Victor said as she approached his window. License and register, Victor. She was surprised. Is this your car? She asked. One of them, he said arrogantly while thinking about how to get rid of her. Why are you parked in the middle of the road? She asked, looking at the back seat while wondering who the girls were. Wasn't he gay? I just got my license and was having trouble driving, so I parked to catch my breath. He said, oh, I wanted to ask you, did you have anything to do with the car explosion about 2 weeks ago? She asked. The chief ordered her to drop the case, but she couldn't. Yes, a man was trying to assassinate me and threw a grenade at my car, so my bodyguard threw it back. Victor lied, making Lee frown. His description fits what the witness saw. As long as you were fine. She said, who are the girls? I thought you were only interested in guys. And I heard you took a girl with you to the gala, she asked with some jealousy as she looked at Margaret. She knew that Victor was at the gala after being ordered to investigate the pervert who assaulted Linda. And she saw the photos of him hugging Margaret. Yes, I was only interested in men, but after spending a night with Margaret here, I changed my mind, he said, making Lily shoot him a glare from the back. Ah, really? Can that happen? Lee asked, looking at him and then at Margaret, who blushed a little while twirling her red hair. Lee had investigated this Margaret, and all of her reports repeated the same words. Slut. And, gold digger. Lee was annoyed a little because he chose this slut over her, but a moment later she changed her mind. No, I should save him from her evil clutches. She must have used some dirty means to trick him. She told herself. I would need her to go with me. To the station, I need her witness report on the gala accident. She said, intending to have some private time with this slut Margaret, and maybe lock her up. She would definitely have some dirty past. Everyone does. That won't work. She needs to accompany me tonight. If it is necessary, contact my lawyer. Victor said, rendering Lee speechless. He is defending her. He has already fallen. She thought. I will see what I can do, Lee said while wondering what should she do. No, wait, what if she sends the reports of Margaret's past to him? Wouldn't he hate her then? But what if that caused him to revert to being gay? It doesn't matter, that would be better than sleeping with this slut. And maybe she would be able to flip his preferences again later. It has already been proven possible. I will send you some documents to look at later. See you later, she said and turned around, returning to her car after giving Victor and Margaret one last look. Just wait for me. Who is that crazy woman? Why did she seem to be in love with you? Wasn't she the policewoman who arrested you that day? Margaret asked, a little worried. The one and the same, as you said, she is crazy. Be careful around her though, and if you ever feel the need to use force to get rid of her, make sure to do it easily and don't hurt her, he said as he started the car. Why? Margaret asked as Lily looked curiously at him. Well, don't tell anyone, she is my half-sister, Victor whispered, making the girls open their mouths wide. She doesn't know? Margaret asked. No, but my father really likes her mother, so if anything were to happen to her he would be very angry. Victor replied, remembering the past. How many half-sisters do you have? She asked again, her interest piqued. My father has never spent a night alone since his ceremony, he is 49 years old this year. You do the math, he said, making both Margaret and Lily astonished. Would the young master be the same? Returning to the mansion, it was 3 a.m. So Victor decided to postpone checking the soul poison until tomorrow and spend the night in Lily's room. Margaret slept with them too. The bed was not very wide. But no one minded, except Lily, who kept giving Margaret threatening looks which the latter completely ignored. Victor hugged the two girls firmly and closed his eyes, then connected with Tom. Due to the trouble with Windy, he had completely forgotten to ask him about Nova. The whimsical system feels sorry for you, so he will grant you a chance for redemption. Answer this question. WHO is Nova von Astrom? The system asked, surprising Tom, who was sleeping alone to hide his constitution from the girls. Does the system know about Nova? He asked about her before, but the system ignored him. She is my wife, Tom replied proudly after some thoughts. Clarify, the system told him. Tom quickly told the system his story of how he met Nova in a desolate mountain, how he slept with her because of the aphrodisiac, and how they grew in love as they hid, and how she taught him how to be a player. Then, how her brother took her away from him, and how she saved his life with that escape talisman. Answer accepted. Reward. You are a man again. Where is Nova now? Tom asked as he felt the life returning to his crotch. Ellipsis ellipsis ellipsis. The system paused a little, seemingly thinking. Nova von Astrom is doing great. She was engaged to a new young master as a concubine. She will live a happy life satisfying her husband. The system reported, making Tom stand up from his bed and shout, no. System, find a solution. He shouted. The whimsical system is analyzing the situation, please wait. The system would delay her marriage for 1 year. The system would monitor her situation and report to you when it finds a chance for you to take her back. Be warned though, she might never want you back. The system reported, making Tom sigh in relief. Nova would never abandon me, he said confidently while thinking that he should raid a new dungeon to get stronger. Victor frowned after hearing Tom's story. The situation is worse than he anticipated. Nova should be his first love, very troublesome. After some thinking, he decided to go see Nova first. If she really wanted to go back to Tom, he wouldn't mind letting her go. Maybe that would make the family stop finding wives for him if they kept running away. Now, he should focus on what to do about Linda. Pussy. Tomorrow he plans to go shopping for some gifts, to appear as if he was really planning to propose in a few days. Chapter 143, He Likes Men. The next morning Victor woke up to find that the bed had 2 extra girls. The twins had sneaked in, during the night. But the bed was too small to fit 5 people, so they ended up hugging Victor and the other girls very tightly. And making him remember that his body was still that of a young man. He should find a way to unlock his bloodline soon, or this situation would start to affect his health, and his sanity. After waking everyone up and walking downstairs, he gave Hilda the DNA samples he acquired from the Cross Mansion last night and told her to deliver them to Kai. Although they were no longer needed for his plans, he doesn't mind having extra cards in hand. Calling Kai, he told him about the samples and instructed him to keep an eye on Bill's and Linda's movements. After that, he sat for breakfast with the girls. Young master, yesterday you told us that you want to go shopping. When would we be leaving? Mina, who filled his dish, asked. In the afternoon, I have some work in the basement before that. He said. Ah, can I go too? Margaret asked as Lily looked at him. She wanted to go too. Fine, I will take Margaret, Mina, and Mana, he said, turning to the aggrieved Lily. Lily, don't forget the mission I gave you yesterday. You need to secure a suitable base for your mission, he said, making her remember and nod. She really wanted to spend more time with him though. Young master, can I go too? Alex asked. No, you should still keep a low profile. Don't worry, I need you to accompany me to New Lure City next week, so you will get your chance to shine. Victor said with an ambiguous smile that Alex didn't like. What about me, young master? Theta, who was still dressed as a boy, asked. Don't you have lessons with Beta and the others? He asked, making Theta look down in embarrassment. She really did. Don't worry, after a while, I will find some time to take you all camping, he said. The girls needed a vacation. After finishing breakfast, he instructed them not to disturb, and went down to the basement. This place was getting filled up with all kinds of materials. But thanks to Hilda's arrangement, it was not messy. First, he quickly found the unmarked glass wine bottle Margaret told him about. Analyzing it with his skill returned nothing. So he opened it and tasted its content. It tasted unique, strange, he had never tasted anything like this before. What is it made of? He wondered for a second before taking out the knowledge book. It's time for him to test its usage. And this thing is a good target. Looking at it, he hesitated for a second, then ran upstairs to the study and scanned the entire book. Before returning to the basement, he didn't want all of the illustrations it contained to be lost. Such a fine work of art. Putting his hand on the book, he asked a question. What is this bottle made of? Nothing happened. How should he activate this thing? Does he need to mark it? Victor bit his finger and marked its cover with his blood, and the next moment he felt his connection to it. What is this bottle made of? He asked again. Cost 1 order point, cooldown time 120 minutes. Yes, no. An interface appears on the book's cover. Victor pressed yes while wondering if it really contained anything important. Because the answer was very cheap. The book suddenly shone and changed into a one-page booklet. The only page contained only a few lines. Components: sand, soda ash, limestone. Sand, CO2 extracted from Miller Desert. Soda ash, Na2CO3 base materials extracted from the North Mountain and processed. Limestone, Kako3 extracted from the White Mountain. Victor froze for a moment after reading the ingredients, then cursed. The book had given him the ingredients of the glass bottle, not its content. It answered him literally. Damn it, he should phrase his question more carefully next time. Now he has to wait for 2 hours for it to cool down. Victor decided to attend to another objective as the book cooled down. He wanted to create a protection array around the mansion. He had delayed this matter long enough. Thankfully he had collected all the materials before his coma. And as arrays needed a core and those things were expensive. So he decided to use the one he got from the spider's dungeon, as the Oris jewel would act as its core, so he only needed to draw the array lines. Victor quickly headed to an empty room in the basement and used the material he got from that crazy merchant and the alchemist. He began to engrave on the ground according to the pictures he took from the spider's dungeon abandoned temple. Victor was quite proficient in array buildings. Because he needed to study them in order to activate the Book of Time back then, he really acquired a lot of useful skills working at the Royal Library. What he was doing was engraving the drawing in the stone and then filling it with a mix of the materials he got with crushed gems powder that he prepared on the spot. He finished the engravings in 3 hours and looked at his work with satisfaction. Now he only needed to arrange the range flags and place the Oris jewel, which was with Alpha in the core, for this thing to be complete. Victor wanted to call Alpha over but decided to test the knowledge book again as its cooldown was over. This time he phrased his question more carefully. The wine contained in this bottle, what is it made out of? He asked clearly. Cost 10 order point, cooldown time 7 days. Yes, no. That's more like it. He pressed yes. Components: alcohol made of black grape juice from the Riverside Vineyard. Lower soul relaxing grass from the parameters of the Withered Snake's dungeon gate. Fish grass that you can find it anywhere in Vane City suburbs. Black seeds that you can find it anywhere in Vane City suburbs. What is that? Lower soul relaxing grass. Withered Snake's dungeon. He had never heard of this dungeon before. Could it be a closed dungeon? Having some plants from a dungeon appear on the surface is not unheard of. He had to investigate this. Now he should try the poison. He quickly put a diluted drop of the soul poison in the bottle and watched for any changes, but nothing happened. He should try it. Many poisons do not have system info like the one he used on Tom in the dungeon. He learned this the hard way in his previous life. Now he needed a player who would not tell him the truth usually to test this on them. Putting the book aside, he quickly went upstairs and asked about Camellia. Hilda quickly informed him that Lily took her and the assassin sisters out on a mission. So Victor resorted to his second choice, Alex. He quickly went to the kitchen and grabbed a glass, then headed to the balcony where Alex was training her spear arts while wearing a short skirt. "How is your training?" Victor asked as he reached behind her in silence, surprising Alex. "Ah, young master, it's fine," she said as she adjusted her skirt. "That damn Margaret made her wear this thing." "Did you get used to living here?" he asked her, sneaking a peek at her pretty legs. "Yes, it's peaceful here," she said with some complex feelings. "Drink this," he said, presenting her with a glass and then filling it with wine from the poison bottle. "This is," Alex hesitated. She didn't like the way he told her to drink, and her instinct screamed at her not to. "It doesn't matter. Drink it. It's an order," he said, making her nod as she grabbed the glass. "Drink," he commanded. Alex closed her eyes and emptied the glass into her mouth. "Do you feel anything different?" he asked her. "No," she said. "Am I supposed to feel anything?" she asked. "How do you feel in girls' clothes?" he asked. "Natural," she said unconsciously, then put her hands on her mouth as if to stop it from talking. "I wanted to ask, are you hiding anything from me?" he asked while squinting his eyes. "Yes. No," she said as she shook her head hard, then began to bang it on the balcony's rails, realizing what was in the drink. "Are you okay?" he asked with concern. "No. Yes. No," she kept saying. "Do you like me?" he asked. "Yes. No. I need to go to the ladies' room," she said, jumping from the balcony to the ground and running away like a frightened rabbit. This was the best solution she could think of. "Interesting," Victor said as he thought. This thing worked, but its effect was too small on Alex, who could still control herself. He really wanted to try higher concentrations but didn't dare to do so on Alex, as it might be lethal. He should find a few guinea pigs later. Victor nodded and hurried downstairs to find Alpha and complete the array. He quickly found her tutoring her sisters about the arts of dagger usage. "Alpha, come with me," he said, signaling her. Alpha frowned, then followed him after telling the girls to train on their own. "Do you need anything?" she asked. "The Jewel of Orus. Do you have it?" he asked casually. "Yes," she said, taking it out of her inner pocket. "What do you need it for?" she asked. She really liked having this thing. "Come with me," he said, dragging her to the array room in the basement. "Isn't this the array in the spider dungeon?" she asked as she saw the lines engraved on the walls and ground. "Yes, this is an illusion array. Its range is about 2 miles. So it encompasses the mansion and the surrounding forests. The jewel would act as its core," he said, placing the jewel on a pedestal in the center. A soft hum sounded in the room, then nothing happened. "How is this supposed to work?" she asked. Her family was not that proficient in arrays. "It is already working, but its range is very small now. We will need to bury these plates outside to act as flags. You can do it later. Just distribute them randomly through the mansion," he said, pointing to 20 metal plates on the ground. "I understand," she said with a frown. "Now drop your blood on the plate at the pedestal. You, Lily, and Hilda would be the secondary controllers of this thing," he said, pointing to a gold plate right under the jewel. Alpha nodded, then marked the plate with her blood, making her feel the array. "Wow, this thing is amazing," she said in astonishment. She felt the array connect to her. "Exactly," Victor said with a nod. This array exceeded even his expectations. It would allow its user to create illusions and hide or mask the presence of the mansion's residents. An attacker would not know how his throat was split. This thing costs 1 gem a day in passive aura hiding mode and 20 gems per hour in active illusions mode. So make sure to fill it up regularly," Victor said, pointing to a mountain of low-quality monster gems in one corner of the room. "Understood," Alpha said as she licked her cherry lips. "I have some work to do now. Study this array well, and don't forget to bury the plates later." "It's all yours," he said as he went to the study. Now he can be more at ease going to New Lure City and leaving the girls here. Entering the study, he quickly went to his computer and began to compose a list for Aria, containing the names of writers, actors, directors, and even musicians who would be famous in the future. If his company could sign those guys early, they would reap a lot of benefits. This took him about 15 minutes thanks to his enhanced memories. Looking at the time, it was still 11:30 a.m. So he decided to do something else he was postponing. Using the computer, he began to draw a plan for the massive base he wanted to build in place of Nick's old hidden base. That place would be his spare stronghold, just in case Vane City was compromised, especially after the reckoning when the major cities would be targeted by the invading forces. At about 3 o'clock he heard a knock on the door. It was Mina. "Young master, would you like to have lunch here or shall we go shopping and eat outside?" she asked. "Oh, let's go downtown," he said, saving the file and emailing it to Kai with the instructions to find a suitable architect to do some proper plans according to his drawings. "Where are Margaret and your sister?" he asked as he noticed that Mina was already dressed in hot casual jeans and a red t-shirt. "They are waiting for the young master in the garage," Mina said, making Victor realize that the girl had already guessed what he wanted to do. "Let's go then," he said, heading to the garage where Margaret and Mana were waiting in a convertible car. "Margaret, you drive," he said, sitting in the back and gesturing to the twins to sit by his sides. Margaret gave him a hateful look, then headed to the driver's seat. "I tried your wine recipe on Alex," he said as she started the car. "Ah, what happened?" She opened her eyes wide as she turned to face him. "He likes men," Victor said, making Margaret chuckle and the twins nod. They expected that much. Alex never looked at them like a man would. Chapter 144, Victor's Day Out. "Do you have any place in mind?" Margaret, who was driving the car through the highway, asked. "Not really. I just want to pretend to be buying a gift for my fiancé while spending some time with you girls," he said. "Pretend?" Mana, who was sticking very close to him, asked hesitatingly. "Yeah, don't worry, I won't marry soon. The bride would probably run away sooner or later. I just need to play my part and wait for that," he said casually, making the girls frown. "You mean Miss Linda would leave you and marry someone else?" Mina asked in surprise. "Yes," he said. "Is he the one she slept with?" Margaret asked, remembering the video Victor showed her. "No, someone else. My other cousin," Victor said. "What a slut," the girls said at the same time, including Margaret. That Linda had just hit rock bottom in their opinions. "I knew a good luxury mall downtown. It has many gift stores and an excellent restaurant on the top floor. How about we spend the day there?" Margaret asked casually, changing the subject. "That would be great," Victor said as he hugged the twins. It's time for him to relax at last. Ellipsis. Reaching the mall, Margaret parked the car in the underground parking lot and then escorted Victor upstairs while ignoring the shoppers' disdainful looks. They decided to eat something first before shopping, so they headed to the restaurant on the top floor. It had a great, panoramic view of the city. "Sir, this restaurant has a dress code." A waiter stepped in their way just as they entered the restaurant. Victor was dressed very casually, while the girls were in jeans and colorful t-shirts, a bit too casual for a place like this where top politicians and VIPs usually ate. "And, do you have a reservation?" the waiter added, trying hard not to sound snobbish as he kicked them out. "Give me your best private room," Victor said casually, throwing his family token at the waiter who looked at it with a frown. "Please wait a moment," he said, gesturing to a security guard to keep an eye on them as he went to find the manager. He didn't recognize the token, but the coat of arms etched on it was the same one that was hanging on the wall behind the boss's desk. "Sorry, I didn't know that this place required reservations or a dressing code," Margaret whispered embarrassingly as she noticed a couple of people giving them stares as they entered the restaurant proudly. Entering this place was a privilege even for important people. "Those are for normal people. Not us. Don't worry, my family owns half of the city, including this restaurant," he said, making Margaret remember how rich and influential her young master's family was. Just then the waiter returned running in panic with a forehead full of sweat. And because of that he stumbled and fell at Victor's feet. "Young master, please forgive me, I didn't know it was you," he said, as he knelt and presented the token back to Victor in both hands. Making the guard who wanted to help him and the guests who were waiting for their tables freeze in shock. "Who the hell is this young master?" "It's okay," Victor said, taking the token back. "Now guide us to our room," he said. He didn't care about a random waiter doing his job. "Young master, the boss is having lunch with some guests here. She instructed me to guide you to her room," the waiter said as he slowly stood up while bowing. "The boss? Fine then, guide us," Victor said, wondering who this mysterious boss was. "Please, this way," the waiter said respectfully as he guided them between the tables and the envious looks of the guests until they reached a room with a gilded door. "Who is it, sister?" Mia asked Iris as she stuffed her mouth with a big lobster. She was really enjoying her sister's treats. "It's my half-brother," Iris said, making Mia, who never liked rich people, frown. "You mean Victor?" Zoe, who was eating with them, asked with some anticipation. "Yes, he is the only one in town who has the elite badge beside you," Iris told Zoe. "Is he one of those bad rich people?" Mia asked. In the past, she had a bad experience with a rich young master, who toyed with her feelings, so she was really cautious around those people. She didn't like Zoe at first, but after getting to know her and how she grew up in a mountainous village they became best friends. Don't call him bad. He is a nice person, Iris said, remembering how he saved her life, just as the door opened and Victor glided in while hugging 3 girls. Iris was caught off guard. The waiter said nothing about the girls. Not bad, huh? Mia whispered as she inspected Victor with disgust. Iris, it's nice to meet you again. Ah, nice to meet you again, Zoe. He said, flashing a smile at Zoe, who blushed a little. She didn't know why, but he always seemed nice to her. Those are, Iris asked as she looked at the girls. They were pretty. Very pretty, twins. She knew that her brother was a womanizer. But, wasn't he accompanied by that veiled girl Lily and Arya back then? Those are Margaret, Mina and Mana, they are my girlfriends. He said, making the girls around him blush a little and hug him tighter as Zoe and Mia glared at them. Oh, well, nice to meet you. This is Mia, my adoptive sister. Iris said, introducing Mia, who was inspecting Victor thoroughly. She didn't like him one bit. Sure, he was handsome. But she hated womanizers the most. Nice to meet you, Mia, Victor said as he sat on an empty couch and then gestured to his girlfriends to sit beside him. It was a little crowded, but none of them seemed to be minding that. Perverts. What are you doing here? Just having a date, Iris asked him as she wondered why she was feeling jealous. She was his sister, damn it. Somehow, she kept remembering that day when she woke in his bed. She must bury that memory forever. Not really, I don't know if Dad told you, but I am getting married. He said, making both Iris and Zoe look at him in surprise. Really, you don't look the part, Mia said as she looked at him, then at the girls. Especially that Margaret, she didn't like her at all. The way she was sitting on his lap reminded her of a certain slut friend of hers. Mia, don't be rude, Iris scolded, then turned to Victor. Congratulations, she said with some sourness in her mouth. You don't have to. I really hate the B*TCH bride. But it's the family's decision. I need to bring some gifts when I go to propose, so I am here shopping with the girls. He said, surprising everyone. Ah, I see, Iris said, not knowing what to think. At least he hates the bride. What was she thinking? Iris shook her head as Zoe did the same thing. I heard that you would also be attending the academy, Zoe said, intending to change the subject. Yeah, you too, Victor asked in surprise. But Mia felt that his expression was forced. Yes, and Mia would too. She would be attending the normal class. Zoe said, we are here with Iris to buy some supplies. She said, let's go shopping together then. The girls here are attending with us. Victor said, making Iris, Zoe, and Mia look at them with surprise. Did you pay for their tuition? Mia asked rudely. Her sister was the one who arranged for her to attend the academy. But she was her sister. She didn't need to sleep with her for that to happen. Yes, he did pay for everything, Margaret, who couldn't take Mia's provocation anymore, said as she stuck her body to Victor, who didn't mind at all. A slut and a pervert, Mia thought. She never liked those young masters before. And she liked them much less now. Then they would be attending the normal class with Mia, Iris said, intending to make them friends. Her sister tends to be a little rude sometimes, but she is an honest girl. No, they would be attending the special class with Zoe and me, Victor said, making them look at him and then the girls with surprise. Zoe and Iris were surprised because they never expected that those pretty girls were also players. They didn't need Victor to pay for their tuition. Why are they so close to him then? Weren't players supposed to be strong and independent? Mia was shocked for another reason. She wanted to attend the special class though, but even her sister could let her do that. The requirements for the special class are very secretive. How did he get them in? Was being a slut a prerequisite for the special class? No, it can't be. Zoe was very nice and she got accepted too. She wanted to ask how, but knowing that she would not get an answer and not wanting to ask those perverts about anything, she chose to refrain. Let's go shopping together then, Iris said with a sigh. After a delicious meal, they left the restaurant in a relaxed manner. Mia kept looking at Victor with disgust. Did he have to make the girls feed him with their hands? What a pervert. The group went downstairs to the mall and began to choose some dresses for school. Unlike many aristocratic schools, this one didn't require a uniform. On the contrary, the students were encouraged to show their wealth and status in order to teach them the truth about life. It is not fair. They didn't face any problems this time as everyone in the mall already knew that Iris was the owner. So their shopping went on extra smoothly. Victor didn't choose anything for himself, the twins chose a few pieces for him which he refused to try on, saying that he trusted their choice. Making the jealous Margaret chose some other pieces for him. Would he really dress in something like that? It would make him look very vulgar, or like a pimp. He was just enjoying the sight of the girls trying different things on though, he kept inspecting them with a perverted smile on his face. Mia kept a close eye on him. She even noticed when he secretly sneaked into a changing booth with that slut Margaret. She expected him to take a long time and she was prepared to call the security, but it only lasted 5 minutes and when they left Margaret was blushing heavily and out of breath. She was even walking a bit funny. What did they do in just 5 minutes? Was it long enough for that? She didn't know. She had no experience. Why was she thinking about such things? It must be that pervert's influence. After a while, the girls showed their new dresses to Victor one by one, including Zoe who asked shyly for his opinion. Sister Zoe, don't fall for him, Mia screamed in her mind. She must warn Zoe when they return to the villa tonight. Rich young masters like that pervert Victor can't be trusted. Should she teach him a lesson? Yes. Pretending that she was going to the ladies' room, Mia quickly followed Victor who left the girls saying he would just go choose a suitable gift for his fiancée and then meet again with them. The girls didn't mind as they were shopping for underwear and he was not allowed into the store. Following Victor, she first saw him go into a florist store where he pointed to some big flowering cacti. He told the shopkeeper to send them somewhere before flashing his token and leaving. Are those for his proposal? Sure, their flowers are pretty. But he seemed to really hate the bride. After that, he went buying some random things and trinkets here and there and flashing his token each time instead of paying. Her sister had a token too, but it was a silver one, not purple. Zoe had a purple one. Her sister told her that this was very important and represented her status in the family and that it should never be lost. Mia smiled evilly. What would he do if his token was lost? She found a good chance to take after she watched Victor store the token in white velvet and then put it in his left pocket after buying some earrings. Let's borrow it a little, she thought as she approached him while making sure to stay out of the security cameras. Her mother taught her well. Just as Victor was busy drooling at some magazines that featured the actress Mira in a bikini, she took the opportunity to snatch the token from his pocket, throwing it in the shopping bag in her hand and then quickly leaving the crime scene. She quickly hid and inspected her surroundings to make sure no one was following her after turning a few corners. A success. She quickly ran to the ladies' room, then after making sure that no one was watching, she opened her bag and looked at her spoils. It was a white ripped fabric. With the letter I engraved on it, there was no token. Wasn't this her sister Iris's panties? She clearly knew the letter I which her sister sewed on her underwear after she kept stealing them from her. Why does Victor have this? Could it be? No. But her sister was looking at him strangely. No. Impossible. They are brother and sister. But the way this thing was ripped. Looking at Mia who sneaked away proudly, Victor chuckled. Let her learn a lesson the hard way. She should never pick the pocket of a young master enjoying his time. She can never guess what she would get, he thought as he took one magazine and then paid for it. His Mira was really pretty here. He should invite her to a private photo shoot with the other girls, he. Sir, you are drooling, a shopkeeper warned him. Victor nodded to the man as he wiped his mouth with his sleeve, then decided to return to the girls. They must have finished shopping by now. As he made his way to their meeting place he spotted Margaret with her crimson red hair. She was standing next to the stairs in a corner arguing with some persistent guy. Frowning, he headed in her direction stealthily. Come on Margot, I will pay you handsomely, the guys want someone to like you. A man who was wearing a business suit that failed miserably to hide his belly was cornering Margaret and asking her to come with him. I told you, I don't do that anymore, she spat at him. But your uncle was out pal, he said as he inspected her, you used to call me uncle too. Not anymore, go FCK, my uncle, he would gladly accept the money, what does that have to do with me? She said coldly, listen, if you don't do as I tell you, The man didn't continue as his head was kicked by Victor making him hit the wall and then collapse on the floor. Are you okay? Victor, who appeared from the shadows, asked. Ah, Victor, yes, thanks, that man, Margaret stuttered. I know, you don't need to tell me. Victor said hesitating for a moment before he took out his phone and then gave it to Margaret after opening a document. He decided to confront her and remove the shadow in her heart once and for all. Looking at the data displayed on the phone's screen, Margaret's face turned white. They were all the dirty things her uncle made her do back then. Some of them she did on her own accord. Everything was explained in detail with photos and testimonies. She didn't want anyone to know about these, especially Victor. I already know everything about you. So don't act like a stranger, he said after a few minutes as he watched her panic. Those were her dirtiest secrets. Wendy. Did. She wanted to ask but her shaking lips didn't move well. Officer Lee. She really didn't like you, so she sent those files to me in the morning, he said before putting his hand on her hair and brushing her hair with his fingers. You don't need to worry about it. Didn't I tell you that you are already mine, so I don't care about your past, he said, suddenly pulling her over and hugging her to his chest. She said, hugging him back as tears uncontrollably dripped from her eyes, staining his shirt again. Isn't there a skill in the system for that? You mother F************, how dare you hit me? Who the hell are you? Do you know who am I? The man who was knocked out regained consciousness and slowly stood up, shouting after a few moments, destroying Margaret's romantic moment. I am her pimp, and no matter who you are, how dare you touch my merchandise? Victor asked as he kicked the man back to the ground while hugging Margaret. I can pay, the man wanted to say but was stopped by Victor's repeated kicking. You can't afford her, only I can afford her, Victor said as he kicked the man again. Security, a bastard is assaulting me, I am the head of the trust bank. The man's yelling stopped after realizing that no one looked at him. Victor had already disguised everything around here with his skill so no one saw or heard anything. Letting go of the chuckling Margaret, Victor smiled as he took a wine bottle and a glass, then after filling it in front of the confused man's eyes, he grabbed the man's mouth and emptied the glass completely into it. The man wanted to resist but he couldn't. Victor's grasp was very strong. He even kicked his crouch, forcing him to swallow. Suddenly he felt strange. The pain disappeared and the man in front of him was his best buddy. Go to the police station and tell them about every bad thing you did, then find a sharp object and castrate yourself as an apology, Victor said, making the man frown, then nod and leave them all as if he was a man on a mission. It seems like the drug's effect was very strong on non-players but very weak on the awakened. Thank you, Margaret said in a whisper. That's what every aspiring pimp should do, he said. Let's go find the others, he added, grabbing her hand and pulling her, making her smile and nod. As long as she was with him, the past does not matter. No, not all of it, she wouldn't mind trying some techniques she learned back then on him. Can I have a kiss? She asked him as they were walking. Wasn't the one in the dressing room enough for you? He asked as he stopped, suddenly taking her in his arms and kissing her lips hard and letting go before she realized what had just happened. Let's go, he said, dragging her again. That's not fair, I wasn't ready, she protested as he ignored her. When they regrouped with the other, Zoe was lively talking with the twins. They seemed to have become friends, while Mia kept shooting her unaware sister strange looks. Is everything okay? Iris asked as she noticed Victor walking with Margaret, whose eyes and cheeks were slightly red. Yeah, just some drunk man tried to assault Margaret. So I took care of him, Victor said. Did you get everything you needed? Iris asked. Yeah, Victor nodded. Where should we go now? Zoe asked, wanting to spend more time with Victor and the girls. I know a good karaoke bar near here, Margaret, who regained her spirit, suggested. Let's go, Victor said, heading to the exit without asking for the girls' opinion. Zoe and Iris didn't argue, they just quickly followed him. Mia didn't want to go, but seeing how Zoe and her sister were interested, she decided to hop on. She wouldn't dare to leave them alone with a pervert like Victor. And just like that, Victor ended up taking the girls partying all night around town and teaching Zoe about city life. The night did not go smoothly as some thugs tried to assault the girls but were beaten by Zoe before Victor could make a move. This girl knew how to spell the word, violence. In the end, Iris had to drag Zoe back home, saying that they had to go to school tomorrow to finalize the paperwork before the opening day. Victor only returned home at 1 a.m. to face grumpy Lily, who, after making sure that he was fine, kicked Margaret and the twins outside of her room, then locked the door and jumped into bed with the chuckling Victor. This is what he wanted, as he didn't dare to spend the night with an emotionally unstable Margaret. He was afraid that he might not be able to control himself if that girl did anything stupid. You seem to have enjoyed your day, Lily asked him, pouting as she hugged him and rested her head on his chest. Yes, next time I will take you too. He said with a smile. I want to go on a date with you alone. She said in a low embarrassed voice. Ooh, well, that could be arranged. In fact, I have a plan but I will leave it as a surprise, he mysteriously said as he hugged her back and went to sleep while thinking about what he should do about that crazy journalist tomorrow. Chapter 145, Secret Confession. Victor woke up to Lily stumbling away from him in embarrassment. She had just tried to stealthily kiss his forehead but ended up waking him up. Good morning Lily, he said as he opened his eyes and realized that she was dressed and ready to go. He didn't feel her movements at all. This girl's sneaking skills are being put to good use. Good morning young master, I am sorry, I didn't mean to wake you up. She said with a blushing face. It's still 5:00 am, where are you going this early? He asked, looking at his phone. I forgot to report, yesterday, my sisters and I found a good location for a secret base. It is a smuggler's hideout by the coast, we'll be raiding that place in a few hours, she said, making Victor frown. Vane City was not a coastal city. Where is the hideout? Do you need any help? He asked. In a fishing village next to Termea City to the south of here. It is about 5 hours by car. So I have to head out straight away to make it in time. And those guys are amateurs, if we don't make use of them now, some other group will do that sooner or later. She said with confidence. Then go, and be careful, he said, hiding his concern. He considered accompanying her, but he should let her do her own missions. She needs to grow stronger by herself. Understood, she said as she turned around to leave but was pulled back by Victor who grabbed her arm then pinned her to the bed and kissed her lips. If you want to kiss this young master you just need to ask for it. Don't steal it like a thief, he said after letting her go. Understood, the blushing Lily said, catching her breath as she ran out of the room. After that Victor returned to his beauty sleep, that was until some piece of sh*t called his phone waking him up. Dear Kai, this better be important. Victor responded with difficulty, he didn't get enough sleep last night. Young master, it's Bill. He left his post at Remal City and is heading west, toward Vane City. He made sure no one knew, but thanks to your early warning we discovered him sneaking in the train station a few hours ago. Kai said, making Victor wake up instantly. Are you using private men or family agents? Victor asked. Family agents. The range of the stakeout was too big for a private team, Kai responded. Then stop following him. I don't want the family to know about this, we already know his destination anyway. Victor said with a frown, too bad he hasn't built his own team yet. Lily's sisters were busy with the Assassin's Guild creation, while the girls Alpha was training were still rookies. I understand, Kai replied. Is that all? Victor suddenly asked, feeling as if Kai had something else to report. Young master, there is something not right in the family, the atmosphere is wrong. Yesterday, Elder Sam was killed by another elder while they were arguing about succession in the family. Kai said, is he important? Victor asked. As far as he knows, that Elder Sam was just some useless bootlicker. Wasn't he the one the Dark Chamber wanted Dick to kill? He is not important at all, but the one who killed him was one of the Patriarch's main assistants, so the situation is tricky now that the Punishment Hall is interfering while the Patriarch is protecting his man. Victor frowned. The situation was deteriorating faster than he expected, those guys are advancing their plans rapidly. But he was still too weak right now. He could only try his best to dodge bullets as they came. Maybe he should shake things a little. But what he wanted to do can't be traced back to him. How was it done? Victor asked. I am sorry young master, I don't know, Kai replied. Then spread a rumor that this is a setup, and the real killer was Sam's daughter-in-law. It was her definitely, Victor said. How does the young master know? Kai asked with some doubt. Just do as I tell you. Victor scolded then hung up the phone as Mina was knocking on his door. It was time for breakfast. Ellipsis. Sitting at the table with the girls, as usual, Victor looked at Alex who was adjusting her skirt while avoiding looking at him. Alex, you must know that it's okay to be gay, and I really appreciate your feeling. But you must understand that it is impossible for anything to happen between us, Victor told her with a sigh making Alex look at him strangely with a surprised look. Young master, I am not. Alex said then stopped after realizing that Victor misunderstood his confession yesterday. Wouldn't it be better this way? It's not that I don't like you, I don't discriminate after all, and you are very pretty. But I have an image to keep. Victor said with a sigh, making Alex blush as she lowered her head. The girls looked at Alex with their eyes wide open. They finally figured out why Victor cared about Alex and why Alex didn't look at them as other men did. It seemed that he didn't like girls at all, and probably only had the super handsome Victor in his eyes. Margaret on the side was having a hard time muffling her laughter. The young master is so bad, but why is he always bullying Alex? Her instinct was telling her this was not for fun, as Victor never did unreasonable things. Now, today I am planning to go on a field trip to the villages around the secret base. I am sure most of you have already heard about it from Theta. He said, smirking as Theta lowered her head in embarrassment. When Victor was in a coma, the girls forced her to tell them the entire story of the secret base and the chicks. I will be going there today, so Margaret, Alpha, and Alex would accompany me. He said. Can I not go? I have some things to do. Alpha said. She didn't explain clearly to the girls what she was doing. All right, Theta would go instead. Victor said. But, young master, she had lessons. Hilda said. It's okay, I really need her this time. Victor said. He needs a lot of luck as he intended to locate the dungeon the knowledge book informed him about. Hopefully, it is still closed. Did you learn from Alpha about the array? He asked Hilda. Young master, I have already been informed, Hilda said, making him nod. Be sure to be familiar with its usage, he said as he continued to eat. His instinct was telling him that the current peace was the silence before the storm, but he didn't know how and from where it would blow. Young master, can I change back to a man's cloth? Alex asked. Getting out of the mansion with this is a little bit embarrassing. No, Victor said sternly, making Margaret chuckle again. After finishing his meal, Victor got dressed by the twins who wanted to also go with him but had cleaning duties in the mansion. Hilda was never tolerant of tasks negligence. I will take you to another time, Victor said after seeing the yearning look in their eyes. He really had fun with them yesterday and wanted to go on a special date with them. Ellipsis. The car left the mansion at 10 a.m. with Alex acting as the driver while Victor enjoyed his time with Margaret and Theta in the back, making Alex really jealous every time she heard their laughter. Young master, why do you always bully Alex? I think he is really nice. After some time, Theta naively asked the question that Margaret and poor Alex were dying to ask. Ah, well, don't tell anyone, Victor whispered, making Theta nod. The truth is, I really like him, but I am afraid that if I treat him nicely he will really love me too, and we would end up doing dirty things. Then my family would have to kill him to erase the shame. I am doing this to keep him by my side without problems. It is for his own good, Victor whispered in a soft whisper that Margaret couldn't hear despite her being literally stuck to Victor. I see, Theta said with a blush, not realizing that Alex, who was driving, was blushing too. She heard everything thanks to her super high attributes. So he was doing this for me, she thought as her eyes became dreamy. Focus on the road, you idiot. Victor's voice came from the back, alerting her. She almost hit a truck. Ellipsis. They reached the mountain base at 1 p.m., where Chick 17 was waiting for him with the others. Young master. The chicks saluted in respect as a fanatic light shone in their eyes. How is everything here? Victor asked as he saw a few mounds of dirt around the base. We have started digging through the mountain. We found a good engineer who agreed to work for us without knowing the specification. We had to pay him handsomely though, and we recruited many workers from some faraway villagers. We locked them inside the mountain. They would work in 2 weeks shifts. Some of them tried to make trouble, but after some threats they became obedient. Chick 17 said. You seem troubled, Victor asked. Yes, young master, the costs are increasing. We would need more money soon. Chick 17 replied. Victor frowned. He would need some private finances for this as he wanted his activities here to stay out of the family's books. Maybe he should raid some targets or sell some system treasure. I will find a way. Victor asked. Does the young master want to see the reporter? Chick 17 asked. No, I want you to tie her up and make sure that there is an escape route. I plan to play the hero who saves the beauty with her. Victor said. But, young master, she doesn't look like the easy to fool type, Chick 17 said. Don't worry about her, I have my methods, Victor said as he continued to check the base and give instructions on what to add. Ah, her partner. Drug him heavily, Victor added. Understood. I will send you some detailed plans in a few days. For now, continue with what you are doing. I will return here at dawn. Make sure that the security appears tight. I want this to be a good show. Victor said, leaving the base. Ellipsis. Is that it? Margaret asked Victor when they returned to the car. Yes. Let's go to the village. He said. Understood. I will guide the way. Margaret said as Alex started the car. The village was about 30 minutes away driving on dirt roads. It was a very depleted farming village. Getting out of the car, Margaret was greeted by glares from the villagers. Although they agreed to sell her the mountain in the end, they didn't like her at all. She is a witch. Victor didn't care about them. He just left the car with the girls and Alex, who was really embarrassed and had difficulty walking with high heels. While Theta, who was dressed in boys' clothes that didn't hide her gender at all, was more comfortable. Under the villagers' scrutinizing eyes, Victor with his charming entourage headed to the mayor's house. It was burned to the ground. What happened here? Margaret asked. The mayor took all the money and ran away. So the villagers vented on his house. An old man hatefully said as the villagers looked at Margaret with hate. The mayor conspired with the village treasurer and stole everything. It was all because of this witch. They really wanted to demand more money, but the last time they did that, Margaret brought those burly men who taught them a good lesson, so they didn't dare make trouble. I want to ask about your village's wine. What is it made of? Victor asked, not really expecting an answer. It's a secret, the old man replied sternly. How much is the price of this secret? Victor asked. It's not for sale, the man replied. Even if I paid you $1 million? Victor asked, making the man open his eyes wide and then shake his head. Don't tempt me. A secret is a secret. This man's honor is not for sale, the old man said proudly as the villagers around him nodded, not noticing the signal the old man was giving Victor. He was flashing his 10 fingers. He wanted 10 million. I understand. Our trip was useless, Victor said. Then I guess I will just go out of the village to enjoy the rural atmosphere. Maybe take some pictures near the intersection. There is a big old oak there, he said, returning to the car and telling Margaret to head out of the village and then stop at the oak near the first intersection. Ellipsis. Uncle Black, you did the right thing. That young man told us not to tell anyone about the magical grass. He said that he would pay us handsomely once he found a buyer. A young villager said. He said that he would pay each villager 1 million. This young master is a fool if he thought we would agree to take only 1 million and split it between all of us. He added. I know, the old man said. I will go fishing to clear my mind. That bastard mayor taking the money was a real shock. What a traitor. Yes, the villagers who were watching nodded in agreement. You fools, I will sell the secret then escape with the money as the mayor did. He. I heard there is a pretty widow with a lot of debt in my son-in-law's native village. I will go there and enjoy life, Uncle Black thought as he left the village. Ellipsis. When Uncle Black reached the oak tree out of town 30 minutes later, the place that was usually desolate was crowded with his fellow villagers. And that young master was nowhere to be seen. Why are all of you here? Uncle Black asked around as his face turned black. He didn't expect everyone to have the same wicked idea. We just came here to chase that young master out. Yes, we can't trust that bastard. Yes, no matter how much he pays us. For the village, I am here to enjoy the views through cold beverages, a bottle for $2. Then, how long should we be waiting here? Wait, is there anyone missing here? No, wait a minute. I will count the villagers. Everyone is here, boss. I feel someone is missing. Quote, no, everyone is here, I checked twice. Where is L? Chapter 146, L. After Victor's car left the village and made a left turn heading to the designated meeting place, Victor suddenly heard a banging noise from the back trunk. At first, he ignored it. Alex, stop the car, Victor said after a few minutes. After getting out of the car, with Margaret and the sacred Theta, he slowly opened the trunk. Whoever hid inside seemed to have gotten himself locked up. A black creature crawled on all four from the trunk, then jumped and stood on 2 feet. It made Theta yelp and hide behind Victor. What took you so long to stop the car? It was too cramped there. And you stop screaming, my ears hurt. Ellipsis. Quote. It yelled at Theta. It was a beggar child, so dirty that Victor was having difficulty making sure that he was human. He was barefooted and dressed in rags. Who are you and what are you doing here? Margaret asked as she stepped away. This kid smelled bad. No, bad, should be what he smelled a month ago. Now, she had no word for it. As for the rags he was wearing, they were covered in some sort of black mud that, as a city girl, didn't like at all. Is that really mud? It didn't smell like mud to her. I am L. I heard that you were asking about the village's wine ingredients. The beggar, El Said, stuttering but with confidence as he put his hands on his waist. Do you know anything about that wine? Victor asked, raising one of his eyebrows. This kid is interesting. I know everything about it, El replied proudly. And, I heard that you will pay for the information. El Said making a money gesture with his little hand. How much do you want? I can give you 1 million. Victor said, he needed to save on expenses. Untraceable money doesn't grow on trees. And what should I do with all of that money? Wipe my ass with it. I would end up dead in 3 days if not by your hands, by one of those idiots in the village. El Said wisely, making Victor nod, this kid was not stupid. But he is too vulgar. Then what do you want? Victor asked. I want you to become my husband, El replied straight away, making the girls look at him with a frown. Ah, you are a girl, Margaret suddenly yelled in shock as she pointed at El. Stop screaming B***tch, my ears hurt. Yes, I am a girl, did your little mind take too long to process that? El replied, vulgarly. No, Margaret replied. Did this little piece of sh*t just call her a B***tch? Being insulted by children was a new low, even for her. How old are you again? Victor asked as he grabbed Margaret's hand, calming her down. 9.5, El responded proudly. Then marriage is impossible, you are too young and this young master has a life to live out of prison. Victor replied coldly. Ah, I see, I didn't think of it from your perspective. El Said as she nodded, pondering, then how about you make me your little sister? She asked with stars in her eyes. Why me? Look at that pretty boy. Isn't he a better choice? Victor said, pointing at the male dressed, Theta. That's a girl, El Said. I don't like girls. Then how about Alex there? He is good too. Although he is dressed in a skirt, he is a man. I can even let you marry him, he was in prison once and wouldn't mind going there again. Victor said, I can see that, but also no, he is too wimpy, I can see it from the way he walks. In contrast, you are more handsome and most importantly, rich, you would surely pamper a new little sister. Elle replied, trying to act cute. It didn't work, she smelled too foul for that. I can take the info and kill you, Victor commented with some amusement. And I was intending to fool you at first, but since you came clean and didn't try to take advantage of me. No, I shall call myself a young miss from now on. Since you didn't take advantage of this young miss, I will tell you what that wine is made out of. Do you accept my proposal? She asked Victor, making him use his appraisal skill on her. Eleanor, STR 15, Int 39, Luck 7, Charm 31, Abnormal Status, Soul Mutation, Fate, AAA+++. Quote. Fine, I will be your big brother, but, Victor replied after seeing her fate. That is the most amazing fate he saw below science, can this kid become a scion? He didn't know, she may be just the main wife of some very strong scion. Either way, he would benefit from having her as a little sister, despite her somewhat naive hidden agenda. She had some interesting stats too. But first, some things needed to be said. Victor's face became serious as he went down on his knee and looked Elle in the eyes. I can take you in, but if you ever betray me, I will make sure your worst nightmare comes true. Victor threatened, making Elle swallow and nod repeatedly. I understand, I don't want to eat that disgusting broccoli thing ever again. She said after a few seconds, making Victor have the urge to smack her head. Looking at her clear eyes and smile, he realized that she was playing with him. However, she seemed to have gotten the message. What has she been through to develop such an attitude? Get in the car, Victor said, sitting in the back as Elle jumped and sat beside him and began to look around in excitement as Alex started the engine. Margaret wanted to sit on his other side, but the smell was too much for her. So after hesitating for a moment, she and Theta sat on the same seat in the front. Now can you tell me about the wine? Victor, who used the disguise skill to hide Elle's smell, asked. The wine is made of, Elle began to tell them the ingredients. I know that, I want to know where the grass you used in it came from. Ah, the magic grass. Elle was surprised. I can show you, go that way until you reach the cliff. Elle told Alex, then relaxed in her seat. What does the wine do anyway? Victor asked, wanting to know the effect the villagers observed. It makes people smart. Uncle Black once told me that I fell into a wine barrel when I was a baby, that's why I am too smart. She said proudly. Really, the villagers didn't seem that smart. He said, it only makes them smart for a few hours, they usually take it with them to important meetings. She said, I see, where are your parents? Victor asked after he secretly sent a message to Kai to investigate anything about this child. I only had a mother, but not anymore. Elle replied, looking away as her eyes became wet. Sorry, Victor said as he decided to sacrifice his new suit and hug Elle a little. She didn't seem to mind. It's okay. 6 months ago, she passed away after helping someone, El sighed stubbornly as she wiped her tears with his suit. Helping someone? Victor asked. Yes, that's what she did for a living. Uncle Black told me she got a disease from a man she was helping. El sighed. Ah, she was a doctor? Victor asked. No, the villagers called her a hooker. Every man in the village told me that she was great. El sighed proudly, making Alex almost lose control of the car. You know what a hooker does, don't you? Margaret, who couldn't stay silent anymore, asked. Yes, Uncle Black told me that she helps men. I will also become a great hooker in the future. Elle repeated as she angrily glared at Margaret, who was having difficulty containing her laugh. I see. I hope you don't regret that. Margaret said as she quickly turned around, seeing Victor's warning eyes. I won't, Elle replied stubbornly. Then where do you live? Who is taking care of you and why are you covered with dirt? That's dirt, right? Victor asked, looking at his spoiled suit. I don't know, they use this thing in the fields, they call it, ferticious. Fertilizers. That's it, Elle replied as she nodded, trying to act smart and making Victor look at his new suit with sorrow. Then why are you covered in it? He asked. Ah, well, the villagers around here are not known for their generosity, you see. They didn't want to take care of me, so I live on my own. She replied, and, you see, this young miss was still too young to work, so I had to beg for food to live. But they would not give me what I want, so I just covered myself with this and sat in front of their houses. She replied with a cheeky smile. So they gave you food to get rid of you? Margaret turned around again and asked. Yup, when did you grow so smart? El sighed, making Margaret turn again and gush her teeth. This little hooker was getting on her nerves. Stop there. She suddenly yelled at Alex. We reached our destination. Getting out of the car followed by the girls, Victor noticed that they were standing on top of a steep cliff. Are you sure this is the right place? Victor asked. Yes, the villagers would scale down this place and find the grass growing on the cliff face, she replied, making Victor nod and prepared to investigate the cliff when he heard a voice. Stop right there, kid. A man with a drawn knife walked out of the bushes. He was a tall burly man with a scar right across his face. Little Elle, you know well what we do with snitches. He said. Big John, when did you arrive? Here, the terrified Elle asked as she stepped back behind Victor, where she poked her head from behind him. Just now, the boss called me and said that you were missing. Did you want to betray the village? Mr. Klein will not like this, he asked. I would never dare to betray Mr. Klein, I was just showing this young master the scenery, she said as she pulled Victor's shirt from the back, warning him. Ah really, Big John said as he put his hand behind his back. Then I would have to ask the pretty girls here about their opinion on the view. Big John said as he looked at the girls while licking his lips. Wait, that one is a guy, why is he in a skirt? Big John didn't get the chance to know why, because the next moment Victor took out a gun and shot Big John, who was about to use a throwing knife, in the head, making the girls a little shocked, and making the terrified Elle step back in horror. She made a mistake. This was a big miscalculation. This young master was not easy prey, but a hidden predator. Stop, Victor shouted at her, but she didn't listen. That was a mistake because right behind her was a cliff. Ah, with a loud scream, she fell into the abyss. Is this my end? She thought as she fell into someone's embrace. Opening her eyes, she saw that it was Victor who was embracing her as he sighed in relief. He was flying in midair. Chapter 147, The Truth. You are really troublesome, Victor said to the astonished Elle as he floated near to the cliff's face, inspecting it. Ah, fly, you can fly, Elle shouted as she looked around in amazement. Yeah, so what? Victor answered nonchalantly as he watched her turn from scared to excited. She was terrified at first, but she quickly forgot all about that and began to enjoy her time being carried like a princess. How do you do that? Are you a superhero? She asked him. You killed the bad Big John, and can fly. She added as her eyes sparkled. No, I am not. I am more like the villain, the final boss probably, he said, thinking about his crazy authority. If it were to be utilized fully, especially after the reckoning, he would be a real final boss. Ah, that's better, she said as she breathed in relief. Better? How? He didn't want to ask. This girl was probably not a good thing. Well, nothing Hilda can't fix. Can you teach me? She asked. Maybe, he said as he took her on a tour around the cliff, surveying it for the dungeon that the knowledge book told him about. Look there, that's the magic flower, Said, pointing to a strange place on the cliff that seemed to have a lot of blue flowers with thin long petals. Withered Snake's Dungeon, E rank, not opened. Warning. Unlocks naturally in 82,344 hours 41 minutes. Found it. The entrance was a strange boulder that had a different color on the cliff. This should be the seal. If this boulder was damaged, the dungeons would open. This would be a good place to make all the girls players. As for the chicks, he doesn't trust them enough yet, and if they became a player, that would disable the Master Ring's effect on them. That place is strange, Elle suddenly said. How so? Victor asked. I didn't notice it from the top, but the magic flowers are very plentiful here, she said, as if they were spilling out of something inside the cliff. Does it have some kind of a treasure? She asked with sparkling eyes. Yes, probably. Do you want to know what? He asked. Yes, I want to learn how to fly too, she said as her eyes sparkled more. Then be a good girl for the next few weeks, and when I uncover the secret here, I will take you with me. And I may teach you how to fly, he said. Do you promise? She asked while thinking some other thoughts. Yes, he said. He should let the girls keep an eye on her. Then I will be a good girl, Elle Said as she nodded, keeping her eyes on the cliff as if she was memorizing this location. Would she be a good girl? Probably not. Let's go back, he said, flying up to the top of the cliff. Even if this idiot wanted to return, the dungeon entrance was not something a little girl could break. It required knowledge about how formations worked. Is everything okay? Theta asked with concern as Victor landed on the ground. Yes, don't worry, Victor said as he put the excited Elle down. Be sure not to fall down again. I will not help you a second time, he warned. She nodded. Who is that Mr. Klein? Victor asked her. Big John, whose corpse was still bleeding, mentioned him before. Ah, he is a very strong young man. He has magical powers too. He came to our village a while ago. He was exploring urban legends and he heard about our wine. So he came and tested it, then told the villagers that it was very precious, so after taking some bottles he left, saying that he would find an inventor. An investor, Victor corrected. Ah, yes, that's it. He called 2 weeks ago, saying that he found a big one and that he would come here to sign a contract in a month. He also warned the villagers not to tell anyone if they want to see any money and to keep the mountain deed safe. This area was part of it, she said, making Victor look at Margaret, who took part in this place's purchase. Ah, yes, this area now belongs to you, young master. That was probably the reason they refused to sell it in the first place, Margaret said after browsing with her phone and checking their location. You said that Mr. Klein has magical powers? Victor asked Elle. Yes, he could easily heal Big John and a few other villagers who fell mysteriously ill just by flicking his hand. So they swore to follow him forever as his younger brothers, she said proudly, making Victor look at her with a smirk. You also followed him, didn't you? He asked. Now he has a good idea of what this brat was really thinking. Of Sue? Of course not, she said, stuttering. And you were planning to follow me then steal the deed? Victor asked with a smirk, exposing her genius plan. No, I just wanted to be your younger sister. You are so cool and can fly too, she stuttered, making Victor frown. Was she ordered to fool him? Probably not. This girl can't be acting on anyone's order because Big John was suspecting her. This must be her bright idea, but she underestimated him. Well, he can use someone smart like her, after some education. Then what can this Mr. Klein do too? Victor asked. He can heal people just by touching them, and he can also lift a huge boulder with just his finger, she said as she moved her hands around as if she was breaking a big boulder. You really like him, don't you? Victor asked. Yeah, no, I am just amazed by his powers, she said. Oh good, then I will believe you for now, but if you ever betray me, he said, then went to Big John's corpse and kicked it down the cliff. Elle swallowed then nodded, not knowing what to think. Let's go back then, Victor said as he approached Elle and put his hand on her little head. The next moment she fell unconscious in his hands. Young master, what should we do with her? Margaret asked as she inspected Elle with a nasty look. She really didn't like this little hooker. She was clearly fooling the young master. I want her to work for me. But she needs some training, Victor said as he took out the master ring and used it on her. It had an empty slot now that Theta became a player. It took 15 minutes to successfully activate because the girl was asleep and she didn't give her consent, so Victor had to forcefully use it. Let's see now how smart you are now, Victor thought with a smirk as he put away the ring. Would that Klein be a player? He didn't know, but another player appearing so soon in this exact city was not something very probable. It would only happen in a cheap cheesy novel whose author was out of new ideas. So probably not, but no matter what, he can use him too. Alex, return to the mansion with the girls and take this little hooker with you, I have some things to do. Victor said as he sent a message to Kai instructing him to find anything he can about a client who might be interested in buying this mountain. Understood, Alex said as he grabbed the unconscious Elle and threw her in the car. Like Margaret, she didn't like this little B***tch one bit. Margaret, tell Hilda that I want to see a clean girl when I return, both from the outside and the inside. Victor said, I will make sure of that, Margaret said, giving Victor a knowing look as she sat beside Alex, then glancing at Elle with a smirk. Where are you going, young master? Theta asked. Don't worry, I have to go plant a seed that would change the entire world. He said as he flew up under the girls' astonished looks. Jane Armstrong was in a really bad mood. She has been chained to a column for an entire day after she tried to escape. Her unconscious partner was tied to a chair in front of her. Hopefully, he was still alive. She never expected that they would catch her sniffing around this abandoned factory. Would she die like this? She was on the verge of discovering the root of this evil gang that kidnapped girls and sold them. This place must have been used to keep the abductees. But strangely enough, it was empty. Did they transport them somewhere else, or did Nick's death force them to stop their operations? And who the FCK is the Chicks Master? Why do they call themselves Chicks? Many similar questions filled her mind. Suddenly, she heard a soft noise. Looking up, she saw that the cell's only window, which was 7 feet above the room's door, was getting kicked by someone, 1 time. 2 times. It broke down. Before the steel frame came crashing to the ground, a slender hand reached in for it and nimbly caught it. Then from the window, someone threw a rope, then a pretty girl climbed down. She was very pretty, like a movie star. And she was young, about 17 years old. After reaching the floor, the girl looked around the room and then smiled at Jane as she put her slender finger on her mouth, indicating that she should remain silent. The girl went to her partner first, checking his pulse and then nodding as she unbound him. Then she went to Jane and unbound her too. Follow me, the girl whispered in an ethereal voice as she grabbed John and dragged him out of the window, making Jane wonder how can this slender woman be this strong. She carried John under her arm and climbed out. Was she in the army? But her arms are very slender. Jane climbed up with some difficulty, reaching the factory's backyard. Looking around, she noticed that the girl was sneaking through a hole in the fence while carrying John. Jane quickly followed behind her until they walked into the forest. The girl kept walking but slowed down on purpose because Jane was not in a state to walk. She kept gesturing for Jane to follow as she worriedly looked toward the factory. Yes, they should get away from here. They should get as far as possible. An hour later, that girl stopped at a clearing. We are safe here, she said as she laid the unconscious John down and took a water bottle and a wrapped package from somewhere and threw it to Jane. Eat and drink, we have some very important things to talk about. She said. Who are you? Why are you helping me? Jane asked. Catch your breath, we will talk later. The girl said, as she checked on the still unconscious John Smith. How is John? Jane asked again. He was drugged, he will probably wake up in the morning. She said. Jane nodded and then began to eat. She was really hungry. What is your name? Jane asked after she finished eating. The woman looked hesitant at first, then as if she got herself together she looked at Jane, who finished eating. My name is Vivi, the maid of the late young master Alex of the Thunder Sect. She said with some tears in her eyes. A maid? What Thunder Sect? And why did you save me? Jane asked. I need your help, I have a secret that would probably get us both killed. But the truth must be revealed, the young master's death must not be for nothing, they are coming, and the world must know. Those idiots still insist on hiding the truth. Vivi said, making Jane frown. Is this girl crazy? Do you remember the chaos in Silver Lightning City? The mantis monsters? Vivi asked, making Jane look at her with interest. No one was allowed to talk about this, but she really wanted to know the truth. I was there, my young master died there. Vivi said, more of those monsters would be appearing from now on, she added with a resolved look. Do you want to hear about the truth of this world? About everything from the monster mantis and about the awakened powers, the families and the sects. I can tell you everything. Be warned though, what I am going to tell you might cause your death, so make sure you are ready. Vivi said, making Jane frown, think, then nodded. I will warn you again, this knowledge can really get you killed, Vivi repeated with a serious tone. I only came to you because I read your articles before and I heard your reputation. I knew that you would not betray me. She added. Jane nodded. I don't know if I can believe everything you might tell me, but I will investigate it. She said. But how did you find me here? Jane asked. I was following you, but I could only act tonight after drugging those guys. Vivi said, making Jane frown a little, but she quickly forgot that when Vivi took out a table and 2 chairs from thin air and then sat down under Jane's astonished eyes. Let's talk then, I will tell you the truth about the world that you never truly knew, Vivi said with a smile. It was late at night when Elle woke up. She was sleeping on a very soft bed, very soft. Where am I? She wondered as she looked around. Ah yes, I was with that big sheep that I wanted to fleece. Why did I fall asleep? Looking at her body, she realized that she was clean, and she was dressed in a silky dress. Did someone wash her? This dress looked expensive. Would Uncle Long buy it? Getting out of bed and looking out of a nearby window, she could see the setting sun and she could see that she was in a building surrounded by forests. Is this his house? Looking at a clock on the wall, she could see that it was 10 p.m, she must have slept a lot. Was she really that tired, or did someone knock her off? Did they really discover her plot? So you are awake. A woman's voice startled her. Looking behind, she saw a middle-aged woman with a strong aura and maid clothing standing behind her. When did she get there? Yes, are you the one who bathed this little miss? Elle asked arrogantly. Yes, my name is Hilda, I have been instructed by the young master to take care of you. The woman said as she raised one eyebrow. Ah, now, this young miss is hungry. Go get me some food. Elle ordered. Ask politely, Hilda ordered sternly. F*ck you old woman, how dare you order me? I am your young master's little sister. Elle sighed arrogantly. She wanted to prove herself strong. She can't let others look down on her. That's what her mother taught her. Oh, Hilda said as a smile appeared on her face. The thing she loved most in this life is educating disobedient little girls. She learned of this pleasure after educating the twins. Elle frowned a little. She didn't like that smile on Hilda's face at all. Did she make another mistake? Chapter 148, Propose. Lily quietly wiped the bloodied dagger with a white cloth, dyeing it red. That's the last of them, she said to her sister. Yup, too bad they fought to the last breath, Isla replied cheerfully as she dragged the corpse to the other room, where it would be dealt with using acid. Did you find anything interesting? Lily asked another sister. A lot. Those guys are not from around here, and they were smuggling drugs. We can use those to hunt for some potential candidates, Nora said with an evil smile. Yes, any money? Lily asked. Not a lot, we should have left one of them for interrogation, she replied. Don't worry, there will be others, we just have to wait. I don't believe those are the only members of the gang. Another assassin girl replied as she played with a phone. Look, this one has already asked for help. Shall we prepare a reception party? She asked. Let's do it, Lily said with a sigh. Before sending a message to her young master telling him that she would not be home anytime soon, she really missed him. The sudden jerk woke John Smith up. It was almost morning, and he was laying on the back seat of a moving car. Isn't this his car? Jane, how did we get here? Did they let us go? He sat up and asked his partner who was driving the car. Oh, you are awake. Someone saved us. She said absent-mindedly. That's not like her. Is everything okay? He asked as he checked his body. I don't know, she replied with a sigh. What happened? He asked. John, she said with concern as she parked the car on the side and then turned back to look him in the eye. I can't do this alone. But if you want in, it's very dangerous. She added. What are you talking about? He asked. I have a new story, a big story, but, this time it's very dangerous, we might get killed. If you want in, I will tell you everything. If you don't want to be involved, we will go separate ways. She said. More dangerous than the scam rocket investigation? Or President's affair? He asked jokingly. They almost lost their lives on those reports. Much more dangerous. I wouldn't dare even use my real name this time, not until everything was published anyway. At that time they would not dare to hurt me. She said without smiling. Oh, he replied, I am in. We have been through a lot before, and I trust you. He added, making Jane smile. But what about the Nick investigation? He interjected. Forget about it, it's a dead end anyway. Didn't you see how their cells were empty? They probably stopped their operations after Nick's demise. She said with a sigh. She still has some questions, but they are not as important as her new case. Well, what is your new case about? He asked, making her hesitate for a second and then look him in the eyes. What if everything you knew was a lie? She asked as she threw him her phone. Watch, she said. John frowned, then took the phone and started the recording. It was some kind of a dim cave, and... Is that a spider? No, an arachne. Is this some kind of cosplay? What is this guy doing? He asked as he looked weirdly at his partner. He never knew she had this fetish. Are they investigating the porn industry now? Look at Male, doesn't he look familiar? Jane, who understood his twisted thought, said. She was not in the mood to be shy. The Male, he is a bit rough, totally unprofessional. Wait, that, isn't he the one who killed that giant mantis? John asked in astonishment. Is this some kind of a fan production? No, it is legitimate. Jane said. The guy's name is Sebastian Silver. She said. How did you know that? John asked. Someone told me. She replied. Oh, why is he doing this cosplay thing? Was the mantis also a scam? Is this some kind of government propaganda scheme? He asked. On the contrary, I am sorry to inform you, but the mantis was real and the arachne in the recording is not a cosplay. She is really too. It comes from the same origin as the mantis in Silver Lightning City. Jane said. What? He exclaimed. This goes against everything he knew. Someone might be scamming you. How can you believe them? He asked. He showed me some other things. But, you have to trust me on this. Anyway, I am going to publish this movie online. She stated with resolve. It would make a good bait for our investigation. She added, making him frown. Has his partner gone crazy? Vivi stood atop a tall tree watching as Jane left, then the air shimmered, turning her into Victor. The world is not ready for reckoning. Although most people would not believe what Jane would say, some of them would, and that's enough, especially when things began to unravel. At least some people would not be clueless when it all happens. That's why he told her things. Some of which even the world powers had no idea about. Hopefully, she would not be killed. Closing his eyes, he connected with Lynn. She has been trying to reach out to him. He didn't really want to talk to her, as when he connected to her yesterday he discovered that this girl had a big problem. She talked a lot. It seemed like being trapped for too long made her want to vent. But he ordered her to keep an eye on fake Linda, so maybe she had some news. Is everything okay? Victor asked. Yes. Last night, Pussy escaped through a window after Mother left for a meeting. Lynn answered quickly. Due to her very high attributes, she could feel what was going on inside the entire Cross Mansion despite her still faking being a demon. Good, I will be coming to propose in a few hours. Start displaying some struggling behavior now, then after I leave, act as if that B***TCH angered you so much that you were able to break the curse. He said. Understood. She said. I will be waiting for you. She added, making Victor sigh. Lynn, despite everything she has been through, still dreams like a little girl. We shall meet again, but not now. I will need you for something very soon, but now be a good girl and do your role. He replied as he served the connection and took his phone to call the florist, telling him to send the cacti to the Cross Mansion with a card, to my little B***TCH Linda. Then told him to choose the best rose he had and send it with another card, to Lynn. After that Victor sent a message to his father telling him that he was going to propose this morning. With that, he made his way back to his mansion. He needs to have some breakfast before taking a bath and getting dressed. Reaching the mansion at about 8:00 am, Victor was greeted by a stern man sitting in the dining room eating some breakfast. While the twins, Hilda, Alex, Margaret, and an aggrieved Elle stood respectfully to the side. Alpha and her sisters seemed to have been using the formation to hide their presence. Father, I didn't expect you to come to visit. Victor said. Your grandmother can't supervise this, she is very busy. So I was ordered by the family to go with you. We can't make any mistakes. Theodore said. I already contacted the Cross family, they would be expecting us at noon. Theodore stated, making Victor frown and then nod. I will have some breakfast then, Victor said as he sat beside his father. Mina quickly prepared a dish for him. Where did you go so early in the morning? Theodore asked. Doing business, Victor briefly replied, making Theodore chuckle. He didn't mind his son keeping some secrets. That's how a Von Weiss should be. Always doing shady things and always proud about it. Your girls are increasing, that's good. Theodore said after a few minutes, looking at Margaret and then at Elle. But isn't she too young for you? Not that I mind, but do you have to involve me by making her your little sister? Theodore added, making Victor chuckle as he looked at Elle who was now clean and shiny. Not bad at all. She was standing obediently to the side, glancing at Hilda with scared eyes every once in a while. What has she been through last night? It doesn't matter, this girl can't be fixed this easily, she must be scheming something. Nothing really between us. I just liked her very much and took pity on her, so I took her as a little sister. Victor said casually. Really? No matter what, keep your perverted plays to yourself. Theodore said as he inspected Elle. She didn't look impressive at all. Pretty, sure, but for him, she looked like a sneaky brat. Understood, Victor said as he ate a bite from his dish. It seemed like Elle tried to scam Theodore. And failed miserably. Where is Lily? Theodore asked. He was expecting her to be sticking to his son like she usually did on the island. She is doing business outside, Victor replied. She sent him a message on the road saying she would stay there for a while, she was really working hard for him. Well, that's good, Theodore said. It's good for that girl to go out for a while. Even though he doesn't like sticky girls. He really likes Lily, she was just that pretty. I have to inform you, the raid was delayed for a week or two, so you would have time to go to the academy now, Theodore said. Why, is everything okay? Victor asked with a frown. Raid schedules are always very strict because it involves other powers and players need to buy many supplies. So the plan usually gets announced weeks prior. Delaying without a set time means trouble, he should prepare some cards, just in case. The truth is, I don't know either. The family is preparing for something, but I am being kept out. The situation there is very tense. Theodore said with a frown. Now go get ready, he added. Yes, father, Victor said as he headed upstairs followed by Mana, who had a proud look. She had the privilege of dressing him now that Lily was not at home, they wagered it on Victor's arrival time yesterday, and she won. Ellipsis. When the white limousine car reached the Cross mansion it was already 12:30 p.m. The car stopped at the driveway as the driver hurried to open the door for Theodore who stepped down followed by Victor. Amelia was there waiting for them. She didn't look good at all, especially with all the tall cacti surrounding her. There were even some spines on her expensive dress. Did she bump into one of them? Her husband was nowhere in sight. That guy must really hate the fake Linda. Victor didn't understand the way he looked at her in his previous life. But now, he knew why. She was not his real daughter. Theodore scowled at his son a little then headed to Amelia. Avoiding getting near the cacti, they can't injure him, but touching one of those thorns would hurt. Mrs. Cross, I am happy to meet you again. I brought my son here to ask for your daughter's hand in marriage, Theodore said respectfully. Ah, yes, nice to meet you too, please, let's go inside. Amelia said. She didn't sound good. Entering the reception room, there were already two men and an old woman sitting there. Victor greeted respectfully and then sat next to his father after who also greeted them. They were from the von Rosen family, and the woman was a player. Name, Martha von Rosen. Level, 90. Abnormal status, soul-eating parasite former host. Class, Ace Summoner. Authority, 9. Strength, 239. Agility, 192. Intelligence, 271. Luck, 21. Charm, 27. Order, 37. Skills, Demonic Instinct AAA, Summoning Art AAA, S*X Arts A, Energy Drain A, Demonic Command B, Drug Brewing A, Needle Arts B, Quick Steps B, Kissing C, Charm C, Spear Art C, Alchemy C, Tea Ceremony C, Surveying E, Poison Resistance E, Pottery F, Equipment, Defense Talisman, S, Demon Repelling Necklace, A, Summoner Grimoire A, Storage Ring, C, Fate Status, Fate's Power, C, Fate's Direction, Going Negative, Fate's Design, Heading for a Disaster. Total, C. From her attributes, Victor quickly realized that she should be an elder. A disaster fate, it must be related to that thing. I must find a way to intervene. Victor thought, if he played his cards right he could gain a lot, hopefully, he can get the catalyst before them. Amelia slowly sat down after giving one of her maids a stern look as Theodore exchanged pleasantries with the von Rosen family representatives. Where is the bride? I can't wait to see her again. When I looked at her exquisite figure at the party, I couldn't help but dream of her all night. Victor asked arrogantly, gaining himself a nudge from his father as one of the von Rosen men chuckled. Ah, she should be here any moment now, Amelia said. A maid ran into the room and whispered something in Amelia's ear, making her frown. My daughter seemed to have gone somewhere with her friends, let's get on with the procedures for now. She will be back in a while. Amelia said, making Theodore frown. What? I can't take this anymore. Victor suddenly stood up and shouted, making his father and the elder frown. I know that Linda is very pretty. And I am already doing you a favor by accepting to marry a cheating wife, but is she also making me wait for her? This young master is not a plaything. Before his father could scold him he added. What do you mean cheating wife? Elder Martha asked. Before Amelia could talk. Do you pretend that you don't know? Victor asked as he took a stack of photos from his jacket's pocket and threw them angrily on the floor. One of the men quickly jumped from his seat and took one of the photos and brought it to Martha respectfully, who looked at the photo and then gasped. It was a photo of Linda with Titus. In bed. Look, we already know that, and we don't mind, let's get on with it. Theodore said, trying to mitigate the situation as he gave his son a stern gaze. Martha didn't reply, she just looked at the photo with anger. Then looked at Amelia who stood there in shock as she also looked at the photos, that B*TCH lied to her. Where is Linda? She asked Amelia. Bring her here at once, she ordered sternly. I don't know where she is. Amelia said nervously. What do you mean? Martha asked. We can't find her anywhere. And her phone is in her room. Amelia said. ... And, Martha asked, just as a maid ran into the room with a pink envelope. My lady, this was left by Miss Linda. She said. Amelia wanted to take it, but Martha beat her to it. She opened it and read the letter inside of it, then threw it on the floor. Good, very good, just wait for the family's punishment. Martha said angrily as she stood up and bolted out of the room, not even bothering to greet the shocked Theodore, who silently took the letter and read it. I can't marry Victor. He is a pervert. I hate him. I am already with my love, Bill. Don't look for me. Linda. Chapter 149, Main Wife. Who is Bill? My nephew. Theodore coldly asked Amelia, who was pale white, making Martha, who just stepped out of the room, stop and look back. Making her bump into a cactus that was strategically placed near the door. Ouch. Amelia ignored her as she thought for a good answer to Theodore's question. Probably, Linda told me that she was texting Bill lately. They met by chance about a year ago. Amelia said nervously as she watched Theodore take his phone out and send a message, probably to the family. What? I told you, father, I don't like her. How many men was she cheating on me with? Victor asked loudly as he pointed his finger at Amelia. She didn't know how to answer that. She was indeed the one who instigated Linda to find other candidates in the first place, but she never expected that B*TCH to be so lawless. She even slept with Titus. Martha, who was very angry, and a little hurt by the cactus, seemed to have thought of something, then cursed silently after she remembered that Linda was not a virgin anymore. Taking a deep breath, she entered the room again as she dusted the cactus spines off her expensive shawl. Mr. Theodore, I hope we can work this out somehow, she told Theodore, causing Victor to look at her with an inspecting look. This snake wants to use this incident to create discord within the family. I already let the family know about this. The elders should decide. Theodore spat angrily as he dragged his son out. He had never been humiliated like this in his entire life. With that, Theodore got out of the Cross mansion and then ordered the driver to go back after throwing Victor in the back seat and sitting beside him. Sorry, I never expected this Linda to be like this. Don't worry, I will find you a better wife. Someone from a bigger family. Theodore said after a few minutes, making Victor speechless. Father, I already have Lily. And there is that girl Nova too. Victor said, Lily's position must not be affected. It's crucial for his plan. Lily is a maid, although you can consider her your main wife, the family would never approve, and Nova is just a concubine, her family just wanted to get rid of her. That won't do. You need a main wife with a good background. Theodore said, but father, as far as I know, you don't seem to have such a wife. Victor interjected, ... I had. Theodore said but didn't continue, making Victor frown. He had never heard of this was not in the family archive. Who was she? Victor asked solemnly. This seemed to be a sensitive subject for his father. Theodore sighed. Her name was Rosette. She came from the heavenly sect, Theodore said briefly as his face turned to the street, hiding the longing in his eyes. Victor gasped. No wonder they destroyed the files about her. It must be an order from those guys. The heavenly sect was the strongest force in the world. They had the most powerful players with the most authority and levels. It is said that 7 out of 10 of the artifacts that existed belong to them. Not only that, they also collected the most gifted players from all over the world as disciples, teaching them skills and techniques. That place has more than 5 scions. Thankfully, they didn't care about mortal affairs. However, if one day they decided to take over the world, no power could rival them. Except maybe the von Krona, Lily's real family. They only intervene when some power tries to disturb world peace. They were the reason the von Richter, Alpha's family, lost very quickly. In his previous life, that sect remained neutral after the reckoning, until they were wiped out by the von Krona who ruled the world for 100 years by then. They wanted to stage a coup. They failed miserably. As far as Victor knows, his elder sister, Alice von Weiss, was a disciple there. Too bad the sect didn't want to anger that scion back then. Some elders acted on their own accord and killed her to appease him. That was the official narrative anyway. Now, most importantly, Victor wanted to inquire about his father's mysterious main wife. But looking at his father's face he decided not to. His father didn't look good. Soon, they reached Victor's mansion where his father silently kicked him out of the car. Don't tell anyone about what happened today. I will report to the family and Bill will be severely punished. He said, and that Alex looks ridiculous in a maid uniform, his disguise is not working at all, so find another solution. Theodore added before he left. Amelia, this time I can't help you, Martha said with a sigh. The matriarch will be really pissed about this. She added as she shook her head and hit the maid who was trying hard to take out some cactus spines from her arm. Be careful. But Aunt, can't we use Linda's relationship with Bill somehow? The terrified Amelia asked. Maybe, but the only trouble would be Linda getting killed. Your little B*TCH has already slept with Titus. If Bill found out, he would slit her throat by himself. That pervert Victor would not cause any trouble, he loathes her. And Titus is still serving his punishment for offending Anne. All we can do now is hope that Bill gets angry enough and tries to kill Titus. That might cause some internal strife, but we can't expose the info by ourselves, or they might suspect something. I have to consult the family about this. She said with a sigh. That's what happens when we use someone unreliable like a maid. Thankfully we didn't tell her any family secrets, Martha added. Suddenly, the entire house shook as they heard a scream coming from the basement and then the sound of metal breaking. Amelia looked at Martha who kicked away the maid that fell onto her, then the two of them hurried downstairs to where the real Linda was being kept. There, in the last room in the corridor, in the center, a very pretty girl was sitting on the bed as a nurse checked her vitals. Linda, Amelia asked in shock when she entered the room with the astonished Martha. Mother, Grand Aunt, my ceremony has finished. I have succeeded, Lynn said with a bright smile. How? Amelia asked. They were now sitting in her study with Martha. Lynn had already taken a bath and was dressed in a white flowing dress. She looked ethereal as she quietly smelled a rose that she got from somewhere. Ah, you see, yesterday, Pussy came and told me that she was escaping. And she also told me that she was the one who messed up my ceremony back then. Lynn said with hatred. What? Amelia shouted in shock as she stood up from her seat. And how did you defeat that demon? Martha asked. I got very desperate, and decided to bet all the strength I had left, on one last attempt. It was a very close call, but the demon seemed to have been affected by the medication you have been giving me and the demon suppressing collar. He seemed a little weak. So I took the chance and wrestled control of my body and won. Lynn lied with a smile. Ah, can that happen? Amelia asked with some doubt. Yes, Martha said, you see. Demons come in all kinds and have different weaknesses. It is not unheard of, though it is rare. Did you change her medication lately? She asked. Yes, the old ones were not working anymore. Amelia said as she nodded. It all made sense now. That must be it, Martha said as she took a white rectangular piece of jade out from her bag. Come here Linda, put your hand on this appraisal stone. She said. Call me Lynn, I don't want to be called by the same name as that B*TCH used to mess around, she told me everything. Lena said with hatred as she put her hand on the stone. Level 0. Class Ace Summoner AAA. Authority 5. Strength 98. Intelligence 98. Agility 99. Luck 11. Charm 36. Order 10. Not bad at all, with this you can get a good position in the family. Martha nodded with a smile, not realizing that the attributes that were displayed were only a tenth of Lynn's true attributes. This demon had nearly 100 strength, no wonder you had difficulty defeating him. Amelia said with a smile as she petted her daughter's hair. Too bad you are too old to be an elite member of the family. If you had managed to kill it a few years earlier you would have been the family's main heir. Martha added. Well, I would have to report this to the matriarch, she added. About my punishment? Amelia asked. Since Lynn has awakened successfully it would naturally be lessened, but I will try to appease the matriarch for now. Martha sighed again as she stood up. I heard from Pussy about the marriage, I can do it. You don't have to punish my mother. Lynn said bravely, hiding her true thoughts, she really wanted to marry Victor. Oh, well, that would work, but we would have to appease Von Weiss somehow first. And you might not be able to be the main wife. Martha warned. I don't care, Lynn said. We will see then. Martha nodded with a smile as she saw Lynn's determination. That's how a true Von Rosen should be, not like that B*TCH who only knows how to chase men. Elle cursed silently as she rubbed the floor under Mina's watchful eye. This was her punishment for trying to scam Theodore, who completely ignored her and ordered Hilda to punish her for being disrespectful to her masters. Why does this family have so many rules? Damn it, what should she do now? Run away? No, this Victor was not just rich, he was filthy rich. She must find a way to get benefits from him, and she can't return to the village now, not after Big John was killed. Maybe there is hope if she could grab the mountain deed and get it to Mr. Klein, but where can she find it? This place was huge, and that Hilda has eyes like a hawk. She was forbidden from entering the dungeon though, could it be there? Last night she had no chance. Maybe tonight, maybe she could also steal some precious treasures and get rich, hey. You missed a spot, do it again, Mina coldly ordered. I know, B*TCH. Stop ordering me like a. Elle's curse came to a halt as a shiver ran up her spine. Didn't I tell you that cursing was not allowed in this mansion? Hilda, who materialized behind her, asked. Elle tried to run away but Hilda's iron claw grasped her. Come, I will rinse that dirty mouth of yours with vinegar again, she said, dragging the miserable Elle under Mina's smug look. Mina and her sister had to go through Hilda's punishment a few times when they first came here, but they later realized that this was for their own good. And the punishment Elle suffered until now could only be considered a preparatory course. Hilda has some very unique punishment. Mina's body shivered involuntarily as she remembered. Chapter 150. In Love. As soon as Victor reached the mansion's door, his phone rang. It was Arya. Apparently, this young master can't get a good rest. We found the girl who took the painting. Her flight will land at the airport in an hour, she said in a hurry. Oh, that's good. What's her name? Victor asked. Monica Davis. She is the daughter of Dave Davis, the owner of DD Industries. He works for the family. Shall I contact him? He wouldn't mind giving you his daughter. If she goes missing suddenly he might alarm the family forces, she said, making Victor frown. No, we better do this discreetly. Anything else? He asked. The list you sent me about those third-rate actors, I investigated them. Nothing interesting. Are you sure you want me to sign long-term contracts with them? She asked. Absolutely. If there is nothing important I will have to go catch some girls now. See you tonight, he stated. Just be careful, she said before hanging up. Victor smiled slightly as he called Chick 17 and told him to meet him at the airport. Too bad Lily has not returned yet. Shall he bring Alex instead? Monica cursed loudly. She was very upset. Her father had forced her to cancel her vacation and return to attend school, under the threat of cutting her off. Just as she sat in her red car he called. He must have been following her every move. Yes, Daddy, she answered. Did your plane land? He asked as if he didn't know already. It did, she said. Head home immediately then. What are you waiting for? You have to start school tomorrow, he said. But I promised my friends to. No buts. Don't think that I don't know that you made up this trip just to get away from here. And I only allowed it because you were a little frustrated after the highway terrorist incident. Now, you should perform your duties as my daughter. The school would be a perfect chance for you to get close to him, he said with a stern voice. But Daddy, I don't want to marry some perverted young master that I never met, let alone seducing him. I heard how he humiliated his fiancée at the party, she protested as she started her car. That's not important. Speaking of the party, you already failed your mission once by missing it. You can't fail again. Many girls already have their eyes on him. You must understand that Master Victor has been granted an elevated elite status in the family. If you can become his lover, or even just carry his children, my business and position in the family would soar. he said, making her speechless. Is your business more important than my happiness? She asked as tears fell from her eyes. Yes, you just don't understand how much you can gain. Just get here immediately, I have some information for you to study. He said as he hung up. Damn him, she shouted as she put away her phone and started the car again. It didn't start. After trying a couple of times it still failed to start. Even you betrayed me, she yelled as she left her car. Then after tricking some poor guy to help her see what was wrong, she gave up after nothing worked for 15 minutes. She could only take a taxi after calling a towing truck and giving that guy who helped her check the car a cute thank you. Take me to the DD West mansion, she told the muscular taxi driver. Right away, the man said with an evil smile as he started the car. The taxi quickly left the airport, and after some turns, Monica noticed that the car was now on a side road. Where are you going? She yelled. The man didn't respond. Stop, she yelled again as she took out her phone. There was no signal. She tried to open the doors, they didn't open. After knocking on the separating screen and windows for a few minutes she gave up. Was she being kidnapped? The car stopped after a while. The doors were opened by two burly men that looked like the driver. They dragged her out by force. Into a dark alleyway. Stop, do you know who I am? She yelled, but the men didn't respond, they just dragged her into an abandoned house. Was she being kidnapped? Stop, help, help, she began to shout and struggle in panic as they dragged her in and shut the door. A young man was sitting inside at a dusty table. She knew this guy, he was the terrorist who threw the hand grenade at the other car that day. Did he find her because she saw his face? Miss Monica, nice to meet you, he said with a dashing smile. He was really handsome. What are you thinking, Monica? What do you want? I am warning you, my father is Dave Davis. You can't hurt me, please Mr. Terrorist. I already told the police what you look like, she said in a panic as she looked around. They were in an abandoned house that was full of dust and cobwebs. The young man was sitting on a chair surrounded by 10 menacing men and a maid. No, that maid was a guy. What's wrong with him? Terrorist. Ah, so it's about that. The hot young man said as he inspected her, from head to toe. She didn't like being inspected, but his eyes were very charming. If she met him on another occasion she would not refuse to date him. She is clean, the young man said to his men after a while, making them relax. What does he mean by clean? Let's make this quick. If you are obedient, I won't mind letting you go, he said as he stood up and approached her. Still inspecting her body, his gaze was piercing. It made her feel very uncomfortable in a strange way. Are terrorists this hot nowadays? What would he do to her? No matter what, it was better to be done by this hot terrorist rather than a perverted young master. What was she thinking again? What? She asked as her breathing became faster. What's wrong with her? A couple of weeks ago you purchased a butterfly painting. Where is it? He asked as he pinched her cheek. His hand felt very nice. Would her boyfriend touch her like that? Why is she out of breath? And why is it so hot in here? Ah, a painting, she asked absent-mindedly. Yes, of a butterfly. He asked again as he raised his eyebrow, pondering. Ah, I won't tell you, she said. The police told me not to help criminals. She added. She watched a show where the terrorist killed the hostages after getting all the information they needed. She was not a fool. Now he would have to keep her alive. Would he be rough with her? The young terrorist looked at her with a frown. Then, he took a glass of wine out of somewhere. Drink, he said. No, she would never trust him. And she wanted to be sober when it happened. He shook his head. Then, after drinking a sip from the glass, he pinched her lips and kissed her. She could feel the wine entering her mouth. It tasted nice, her first kiss. Looking at her blushed face, the terrorist chuckled. Look, I know my charm is affecting you, that's natural. My attributes are too much for a mortal to handle at a close range. It's strange though, he said, in a very narcissistic way. What? She didn't understand what he was saying. Now, where is the painting? He asked. I gave it to a friend, she said. Why was she answering him? Who is this friend? He asked. Connor Morris, he is from Windgate City, he is into art. She said. She wanted to shut up, but couldn't. She didn't care about Connor anyway, he might die, she needed to warn him. Oh, is he your boyfriend? He asked. Not at all, he wishes. I never even let him touch my hand. She yelled as if to clarify. Why did she feel the need to do that? She knew that Connor liked her, but she only considered him a friend. She met him through another friend a few years ago before he left on a scholarship. Oh, are you one of those evil young ladies who manipulate men? He asked, somewhat disappointed. No, I never promised them anything. They just like to pester me, I don't know why. She said. She really hated how men kept pestering her when she was young. But when she got older she learned how to use them. Will he hate her for that? Why would she care? He looked at her with a deepening frown. It was as if he was thinking about something important. She liked that look. It made her feel important. Suddenly he took out a dagger. Will he kill her now? She tried to struggle but the burly man holding her didn't let her move. Don't move, or it will leave a scar. The young terrorist said. What? Will he rip her clothes now? She was still not ready. To her disappointment, he only used his dagger to swiftly prick her finger and draw some blood onto a leather-bound old book. He opened it after that and read a few lines. Interesting, so that's it. I didn't expect that at all, he said as he smiled at her. Why did you give Connor the painting? He asked, raising one eyebrow. I don't know, I really liked it, but when he was helping me unpack my bag, he injured his hand. So I ran to get a first aid kit. I hate blood the most. And when I returned to the room he was nowhere to be seen, so was the painting. I knew that he must have ruined it with his blood, I saw its trace in the bag, he must have been very embarrassed, so I called him. He was really troubled and talked funnily. So I told him to keep the painting as a thank you gift for helping me. I didn't want to embrace him, she said. That Connor didn't call her after that, was he really that embarrassed? When was that? He asked. About 2 weeks ago, she said. Good, you are not that bad after all it seems. Now, one final question. Do you like me? He asked. Yes, she blurted out. What was she saying? She just met him, and he is a terrorist. A very hot terrorist. I like you too. From now on you will work for me. I will call your father and tell him. He said suddenly, making her shocked. What, do you want to ask for a ransom? Will I be a terrorist too? She didn't understand what he meant. Is this how terrorists work now? Would she be trafficked? Would she end up in a life of servitude? She wouldn't mind if it were him. You will know later, now go to sleep, he said with a smile, touching her forehead gently. And with that, she lost consciousness. Young master, you never told me about the paintings, and why do you want to make that girl your maid? Alex, who was driving, asked. She felt somewhat jealous. The painting is a demon possession tool, Victor said as he watched the road. You don't need to worry about it, this would be Alpha's assignment, Victor said as he messaged Arya, telling her to find information about Connor Morris, and also to call Monica's father and inform him that he wants her. Her bloodline is very compatible with his, that's why she turned into AB*TCH and heat after meeting him. That was interesting. And the girl? Alex asked again, making Victor smirk. She is special, her bloodline is very compatible with mine. He said, I just thought it would be a waste to let it go unused. He added, he would just send her to her father for now, her opportunistic father would ship her to him later, he was sure. I see, Alex said. Now, dear Alex, we have to talk about something. Victor suddenly said in a serious tone. What? Alex asked. My father has noted that the maid dress didn't suit you, Victor said with a sigh. What? Alex responded. Yup, so we have 3 options. The first one is to make you change course and make you train to be a burly man like the chicks, nothing that a few bags of specialty protein and a rigorous training routine can't achieve. Victor said a nod. The other options? Alex asked. She didn't want to look like those bald chicks. The second option is for you to undergo plastic surgery. We would also convert you to a woman in the process. What do you think? Victor asked. I absolutely refuse. Alex, who was disturbed by the idea, stated. Then the last choice. I will have to make you wear a very skimpy outfit, something that even the sluttiest woman wouldn't wear. Hopefully, that would make you appear more womanly. Victor said with a sigh. Are there any other options? Alex asked. I can't think of any. Do you have any ideas? Victor asked, making Alex want to cry. Young master, can you give me one last chance? I can make the current disguise work. Alex said with some resolve. Quote. I am not sure, but I will just order Margaret to make your skirts a little shorter. If it doesn't work we would resort to more drastic procedures. Victor said casually, making Alex nod. She has to remove her disguise after all. Sorry father, this is for your daughter's survival. Just as Alex was considering what to do, the car was signaled by a police car to stop to the side. Why are you stopping them? I thought you were off duty today. Nicole scolded her daughter. Sorry mother, I just saw an acquaintance. Lee replied, I will return quickly. She said as she jumped out of the car, making her mother squint her eyes looking at the other car, then quickly followed as she felt her daughter was acting strange. This usually meant trouble. Victor, how are you? Lee asked the handsome guy in the back of the expensive car as she gave the driving maid a weird gaze. Wait, that maid is a guy. What was going on here? An undercover cop? Impossible, no cop dresses like this, or did the police reach a new low? Hello, Officer Lee, I am doing good, the handsome young man said with a sigh. How have you been? He said with a tired frown. He seemed troubled, so was his driver maid. I am great, did you get my message? Lee asked in a flirting voice, making Nicole frown. This is the first time she heard her daughter talk to any boy like this. Does she like him? Yes, it made me a little troubled, he said, making Nicole wonder what kind of message did her daughter send him. I noticed that, Lee said as she looked with a frown at the cross-dressing maid. What the hell is going on here? Nicole wondered as she saw the lost look in her daughter's eyes. Did she cause this? She needed more information. Hello there, I am Lee's mother Nicole, she said to Victor as she extended her hand to him. Victor looked at her with surprise then elegantly, and he shook her hand with respect. Hello, my name is Victor von Weiss. Nice to meet you. Are you by any chance Officer Lee's older sister? He said politely. Not bad. Wait, von Weiss. I am her mother. Are you Theodore's son? She asked. He was a smooth talker like Theodore, and had the same perverted eyes. Ah, yes, Aunt. Do you happen to know my father? He asked, making Lee look at her with a strange look that she didn't care about. This is a mess. This guy is Lee's half-brother. Did she by any chance develop feelings for her half-brother? **T. Yes, I met Theodore a few years ago, a good man. She said with a sigh. What do you think of my daughter Lee? She suddenly asked him, making Lee, by her side, blush heavily as she perked her ears. This brat wants to know the answer as well. Good, that means the situation was still salvageable. Well, I probably shouldn't say this, but I think of Officer Lee as a close sister. Victor said with a smile that Nicole understood. This smile was the thing Theodore did when he revealed a secret. This brat knows. Did Theodore tell him? But looking at the disappointed Lee to her side, isn't this better? Her crazy daughter would not have any other stupid thoughts after this. Officer Lee, I am a little busy right now, we will meet later. Nice to meet you Mrs. Nicole, Victor said politely as he gestured to Alex to start the car. Lee, who was a little lost, only noticed that Victor had already left when the car was already far away. He considers you as a sister, so forget about him, Nicole said to her daughter. Mother, you don't understand, he thinks of all the girls in the world as his sisters, he is gay. I will never give up, Lee said. Nicole, for the first time in her life, wanted to smack some sense into this stubborn daughter of hers. Maybe she had raised her a little bit wrong.